No, come on, don't mess with me, Leo said, his eyes darting away nervously. Why won't you look at me? I don't want to. I really don't. So, you call me your angel just so you could watch me throw myself at you? Willow Shung tilted her head, a flicker of understanding, or maybe misunderstanding, dawning in her eyes. Leo felt like her brain was definitely growing, just in the wrong direction. An audacious idea sparked in his mind, a stroke of desperate genius. This plan, he thought, would be the definitive cure for Willow's descent into darkness. Desperate times, desperate measures. Morality could take a hike. He leaned in close to her, his expression deadly serious. I have a plan. It will temper your spirit. What is it? It's my first time doing this, so you might cry. Can you handle it? Huh? What are you talking about? Don't worry about what it is. The effects are significant. It'll take about 40 minutes. Are you talking about? I'm not mentally prepared for that. These are desperate times, Leo said, a wicked grin spreading across his face. You don't have a choice. Flame him. Go. I don't know how. You'll get used to it. Just do it. Show me. It's not rocket science. You just move your fingers. Inside the Nexus Land Center, Leo shot Willow a look of profound disappointment as his own hands flew across the keyboard, the keys clattering like machine gun fire. Was there any simpler way to build mental fortitude than trash-talking strangers in a video game? Leo figured he had finally cracked Willow's logic, and it made even more sense if he framed it in the language of one of those epic fantasy novels. The angelic maiden, living a life of serene tranquility, spends her days petting cats and fishing. Suddenly, her life is thrown into turmoil. Inner demons run rampant. Her heart is in chaos. Filled with resentment, the maiden decides to take extreme measures to slay her demons. From this, Leo, the great mathematician, derived a formula. Leo equals inner demon. Willow equals angelic maiden. Maiden plus demon equals chaos equals descent into darkness equals extreme behavior. Therefore, given that the inner demon could not be removed from her life, the only solution was to increase the maiden's resistance to said demon. The ultimate goal was to achieve maiden plus demon equals serene tranquility. Given, the creation of the inner demon equals 50% genuine affection plus 50% influence of romantic rivalry. The final solution was simple. First, we'll conduct a 3-day foundational training in competitive trash talking. And that's all it takes? Willow asked, her fingers moving slowly across the keyboard as she typed. Of course not. After the foundational training comes advanced training. From now on, whenever I meet up with other women, you're going to be there and watch. We'll call it auditing. Willow looked up, a hint of resentment clouding her face. Bad sign. She was starting to go dark again. Leo quickly elaborated. The auditing is to raise your psychological threshold for romantic rivalry. But if I win, wouldn't that atmosphere disappear? But you can't win. You think getting engaged is going to stop me? That's why auditing is the ultimate solution. I think you're trying to gaslight me, Willow said, her wide eyes filled with wide-eyed confusion. But Leo's argument was backed by a twisted sort of logic. You told me this yourself when we were by the lake, talking about enlightenment. Emptiness is form. What you resist persists. What you accept, you transcend. Your engagement is an act of resistance. Only by accepting it can you truly achieve tranquility. Willow felt like something was wrong with his reasoning, but it also sounded plausible. And acceptance means I have to audit. Exactly. The more you see it, the more you get used to it. Whenever these two got together, it seemed enlightenment was never far behind. The lakeside was Willow's sanctuary, where Leo found his moment of clarity. The land center was clearly Leo's home turf, and now it was Willow's turn to seek enlightenment. Leo, I've had an epiphany. Let's hear it. When a person encounters something unfamiliar, their heart is disturbed. Only by seeing it as a trivial part of daily life can they find inner peace. Profound wisdom. So, auditing is to make me get used to it. That way, when I see it again, my heart can be as still as water. You got it. Leo, why don't we try it right now? You are truly a deep thinker, Leo beamed. She was a natural. She was born for this path. It just goes to show you how a cult can mess with your head, forcing a good, upstanding person into. Wait, what cult? He was simply clearing the path for the maiden's spiritual journey and fighting back against the cold, cruel institution of arranged marriage. Let's go. We'll start with a tough one. One of you looks smug as hell. The other looks completely clueless. Did you kidnap her? Dr. Evelyn Shaw asked, placing a glass of water on the table and giving the engaged couple a strange look. She'd heard from Peyton that they were getting engaged. It was unexpected, but it also made a certain kind of sense. She wasn't shocked. In fact, she almost wanted to laugh. Seducing another woman's husband sounds like fun, Evelyn whispered in Leo's ear as she handed him the water. Seduce me now. Now, it was Evelyn's turn to be stunned. The fact that those words came out of Leo's mouth, unprompted, left her speechless. Was this a gift from the heavens for her sleepless nights? What about your fiancé? She's auditing. Wait, when did you pick up this particular kink? Even Evelyn, a connoisseur of the strange, was thrown by his outrageous statement. Leo, I'm willing to try almost any kink you've got, but this one's a hard no. A preference like this, as the threshold for excitement rises, the roles of subject and object can flip. If you keep this up, I'm seriously going to have to up your dosage. What? No, just listen, Leo said, quickly explaining the whole bizarre situation. He laid it all out. Willow was a strange case, a sort of modern-day ascetic whose primary goal was to maintain a peaceful state of mind. But her mind was in chaos. And when her mind was in chaos, her actions became extreme and uncontrollable, which could lead to irreversible consequences. This time she went dark and demanded an engagement. But you can't just undo an engagement when you feel like it, can you? Since the words are out there, we have to see it through. If you don't cure the root cause now, next time she'll be demanding a wedding, and after that, she'll be demanding a baby. Leo waved his hand dismissively. If his plan didn't work, he figured he could always ask the great Dr. Shaw for another idea. Who said this plan won't work? This plan is fantastic, Evelyn said after she'd heard the whole story, a strange glint in her eyes. She looked at Willow as if she were a priceless treasure. Willow, my dear, how did I never notice before? You're a natural-born saint. I'm a what? Never mind what kind. Just please, you absolutely must get engaged to Leo. You were born to be his fiancé. Since he was here, Leo figured he might as well ask about his amnesia. Have you come up with a treatment plan for me? Of course. That's why I wanted you to view Summerlin through an emotional lens. Is this that theory of yours? A massive emotional upheaval is needed to set off the landmines you've buried. Yes, Evelyn said with a firm nod. Well, if you're referring to me listening to her story and then waving goodbye to her, hoping it would awaken my lost memories, then I've already done that. And there wasn't so much as a flicker in my brain. That's what I find puzzling, Evelyn admitted. Her whole reason for unexpectedly supporting Summer at the family meeting was for this purpose. Leo's amnesia was psychological, and in her view, the root of it all was the complex emotions of his relationship with his childhood sweetheart. She thought that when Leo finally bid farewell to that past responsibility, it might trigger something deep within him. But it hadn't. Hate is the easiest emotion to detonate, she explained. Because most people are unwilling to show their ugliest resentments, they bury them deep. The deeper they're buried, the more violent the explosion. So what's the conclusion? The conclusion is that my second treatment plan also failed. You should have listened to my guidance and hated Summerlin. That would have been the most effective way to treat your amnesia. Why didn't you say so earlier? Because if I had, you wouldn't have listened to me, Evelyn said, rubbing her temples wearily. Leo was just so disobedient. She desperately wanted to train him like a pet. She dropped the subject and moved on. I've gathered a lot of information. To be honest, what you call a high-stakes family feud looks more to me like a few family members with their own agendas causing trouble. Right. The term family feud sounded so dramatic. Leo didn't even like using it. Family drama felt more appropriate. It was just 3 generations of family, all making different choices. Evelyn told Leo everything she'd learned. Her conversations with Ethan, her talks with Peyton, she relayed them almost word for word. Before Leo could even respond, Evelyn posed a critical question. Did you really commit suicide? That phrasing is ambiguous. Let me be more direct. When you threw yourself in front of that car, were you actually trying to die? I've been thinking about that too. But who throws themselves in front of a car if they're not trying to die? The outcome of a car crash is completely unpredictable. As she spoke, Evelyn, sitting in her chair, started to get restless. Her foot snaked out from under the table and found his. We're just talking. Stop moving around. I've done so much for you. I deserve a little reward, don't I? You like it rough? How about a little foot massage? Leo pressed his thumb hard into the sole of her foot. Oh, that's better. Now, where were we? Willow watched in silence as the two of them resumed their normal conversation. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Was watching this supposed to make her feel at peace? But I don't understand it. Since she was here with the attitude of a student, she knew that if you don't understand, you have to ask. Dr. Shaw, is having your foot pressed hard really satisfying? Willow, my dear, pain is pleasure. You wouldn't understand that kind of feeling. Pain is pleasure? Willow felt like she'd learned something, even if she still couldn't grasp the connection. but she figured if she kept trying, she'd eventually understand. Where did you get the conclusion that I wasn't trying to kill myself? Leo was still mulling it over. Because you had no reason to. A miserable life, plus a devastating heartbreak. Isn't that enough? Evelyn shook her head, sighed, and knocked on the table for emphasis. It's enough, but there are other possibilities. Let's be clear, what we're doing right now are subjective inferences. On that basis, let me ask you, if it were the you of today, and you heard that Ethan was planning to hire a hitman to kill you, would you choose to die? No, that's enough. That alone is sufficient to support a hypothesis. As for proving whether the hypothesis is true, we'll need to find more evidence. But dwelling on this now is pointless. It has a point, Evelyn insisted, because it can lead us to the real reason for your amnesia. She pulled out a small whiteboard and started scribbling on it. Standing before it with her gold-rimmed glasses, she looked every bit the part of a private tutor. She wrote Plan A and Plan B on the board. Regarding the cause of your amnesia, Dr. Morris and I have the same conclusion. It was triggered by your body's defense mechanism in response to immense pain, resulting in selective amnesia. So, my initial Plan A was the USB drive incident, to make you confront past pain while immersed in happiness. The huge emotional fluctuation might have restored your memory. Of course, that plan failed, but at the time, I had already prepared Plan B, which was to build up an extremely negative image of Summerlin. The goal was that after hearing her full story, you would have a moment of, so that's all it was? The emotional release in that instant could also have jolted your memory. As we can see, that plan also failed. As Evelyn spoke of failure, there was no trace of dejection on her face. In fact, she seemed invigorated. She continued, writing a large Plan C on the board. I've summarized the lessons from the first two plans and identified the two most important reasons for their failure. First, your emotions aren't being fully conducted. Because you have a sensory gap regarding your past, both your pain and your relief are incomplete. You're simply feeling pain or relief about a story. Second, the immense pain needs to be triggered by a single event. Human adaptability is very strong. The most direct example is Stockholm Syndrome. A hostage will psychologically align with their captor to reduce the threat of harm. I've treated many long-term victims of domestic abuse, both men and women, who exhibit similar patterns. The familiar pain can even become a comfort zone they're unwilling to leave. Your past life was painful, but that pain was kept in check by your vibrant life force and psychological defenses, gradually becoming your normal. What truly escalated your pain must have been a sudden, massive event. She paused for effect. For example, a student who consistently fails in class generally won't jump off a building, because being at the bottom has become their norm, and their mind finds ways to accept their failure. What truly causes them to jump is the day the teacher suddenly calls their parents to the school and publicly humiliates them in front of their classmates and parents. That sudden escalation of pain is what pushes them over the edge. A more recent example would be your fiancée, Willow. She's used to her inner peace, treating the outside world with a non-competitive attitude. But when you made a move to break off the engagement, that sudden, unexpected event is what truly caused her to go dark. Evelyn stood before the whiteboard, now covered in black marker scribbles. The explanation left Willow staring, dumbfounded. She instinctively looked down at her own clothes. How was it that she was fully dressed, yet felt as if she had been stripped completely bare? So, what's the conclusion? Leo asked. He had understood the theory and found himself agreeing with it. Evelyn wrote the conclusion on the edge of the whiteboard and began to explain. The conclusion is this. First, you need to find or simulate, as much as possible, the missing feelings from before your amnesia. Second, you need to find the specific traumatic event that directly caused your amnesia. At first, the two conclusions sounded abstract to Leo. On second thought, they were still abstract. Explain what you mean, simulate the feelings from before my amnesia, he asked. So, I have to go back to work at the Cypress Lounge? Go back to being Isabella's boy toy? Keep bankrolling Summer's celebrity career? Go back to school and be best friends with Skylar? And just pop into your office for therapy sessions whenever I feel like it. Leo waved his hand, dismissing the idea himself. It wasn't about whether he was willing to do all that. If it meant getting his memory back, he'd do anything. The problem was that times had changed. The feeling of re-experiencing those things would be completely different. Even with the same people, the emotions would be poles apart. A young couple kisses and dreams of a second kiss. A middle-aged couple kisses and has nightmares all night. Same people, same kiss, but entirely different feelings. That's why I said simulate as much as possible, Evelyn clarified. You can feel it with Isabella. Even though the situation has changed, the time gap is short and your core personalities haven't changed, which means your interactions still contain the same conflicts as before. This will more or less help fill in some of the missing feelings. Leo sat there, pondering the feasibility of the plan. In theory, it was interesting. To be honest, since his amnesia, he could count on his fingers the number of days he'd spent with each of the people from his past. With Skylar and Isabella, the ones he'd spent the most time with, he could indeed faintly sense echoes of their old dynamics. This isn't just some conspiracy to get me to visit you more often, is it? If I told you it was, would you stop trying? Evelyn said with a shrug, making it clear he could think whatever he wanted. This was her conclusion. Take it or leave it. She went on, I'll help you figure out how to find those feelings. You can keep thinking about whether you want to do it. But the second thing you definitely have to do, finding the direct traumatic event that caused your amnesia, that's crucial. Leo was very interested in that point. Evelyn was right. Suicide, amnesia, both required immense pain as a trigger. But Leo didn't believe he would choose death while living such a tangled life. He had people who depended on him, unless some sudden event had occurred that completely shattered his defenses. Where do I even start looking for this event? Peyton, Evelyn said bluntly. That bad woman has always been a mystery. Even her loyalties are a blur. Her loyalties are a blur? In this whole Miller family mess, even my loyalties are starting to feel blurry. I don't know where to begin. Leo, you're blurry because you have amnesia. Is it possible that before you lost your memory, you had already figured a lot of things out? Wait a minute. A sudden realization struck Leo like lightning. It was something that followed from the information Evelyn had just given him. An outside force had guided Ethan to try and kill him. Why? Is it possible that before I lost my memory, I'd already learned too much? So why take the risk of killing him? Because he knew too much. In that instant, everything became clear. He realized his Miller family game had just entered Phase 2. In Phase 1, he needed to use certain tactics to gain an accepted identity. That was the prodigal son returns game. But what came next wasn't a game of family succession at all. It was a puzzle game. The synopsis was Miller family rules of horror participants. The old man, Big Rick, Frank Miller, Ethan Miller. Rules. Uncover the truth of the 20-year blood feud that hangs over this family. Victory condition. Identify the true target of Frank Miller's revenge, pinpointing the target for his epic comeback strike and releasing the resentment he has harbored for 2 decades. Reward. After Frank's victory, he can make up for Leo's unhappy childhood, allowing his son to finally live the life of a rich kid with billions of dollars and endless talent. Phase 1. Completed return to the Miller family as the outcast son, attend the family banquet, and gain the status of an heir with free access to the family estate. Phase 2. In progress while solving the mystery of the car crash that surrounds you. Search for your lost memories. An electrified Leo, feeling like he had finally found his purpose, jumped up on the chair and let out a series of triumphant, ape-like hoots. Ooh. Willow, concerned, leaned to check on him, only to be grabbed and kissed fiercely on both cheeks. You're my lucky star, my angel. Willow's face flushed red. She turned her head away, just in time to meet Evelyn's resentful glare. Evelyn rubbed her wrist, so from writing on the whiteboard, the bitterness palpable. Oh well, I'm used to it, she sighed. The squeaky wheel that threatens to go dark gets the grease. The one who does all the diligent work gets nothing. Dr. Shaw, don't you worry, I'll thank you properly. Leo howled, running over. He swooped Evelyn up, slung her over his shoulder, and disappeared into the bedroom. The sight left Willow frozen in her seat. She hesitated for a long moment. Wait, is he serious? Does he really expect me to audit? Draped over Leo's shoulder, Evelyn smirked and silently mouthed a message to Willow. The one who doesn't work only gets to listen. Let's just say some strange bedroom negotiations were omitted. In the bedroom, curled up under the covers, Evelyn watched the silhouette of Leo sitting on the edge of the bed. Her voice had a lazy drawl to it. Leo, are you really going to treat Willow like that? Like what? Making her audit. She won't do it. Do you think she's an idiot? Who would do something so humiliating? Then why would you say something so cruel? Evelyn was a psychologist, but she could never quite figure out Leo's way with women. He was always so unpredictable. She thought he would hate her, but he didn't. She thought he would love a girl like Willow, but the things he said to her were brutal. Because with something like this, the best way to handle it is with cold indifference. If I say nothing, or just ignore her completely, it doesn't matter how dark she goes. It'll have no effect. I agree. But for a girl like Willow, who's in the throes of her first big crush, it's a huge blow. She's throwing herself at me, and I don't even give her the time of day. But your way will still hurt her. Of course. But that's a necessary part of disenchantment, letting her see what my daily life is really like. This is the life of a scumbag, involved with different women. Whether you like it or not, this is who I am. I've only met her a handful of times. If you want to say she fell in love with me after just that, I won't argue. Maybe I really am that charming. But the image of me in her head is almost entirely built from the stories you all told her. It's like how some people fall in love with a character in a novel. My greatest appeal comes from her imagination. Leo sat on the edge of the bed, shaking his head. He wasn't particularly troubled by the Willow situation. He didn't even care how it turned out. I don't owe you anything. In the end, do whatever you want. If I didn't feel a little bad for that timid girl you used to be, I wouldn't give a damn if I hurt you or not. If you were one of the bad ones, I'd break your heart without a second thought. But Willow was just confused, so there was no need to be cruel. Leo, do you think I'm cheap? Evelyn asked suddenly from under the covers. Hey, you were the one who made me say those things just now. I'm asking for your opinion of me. I don't really have one. Now, sit up. I need to put some ointment on you. Leo took some liniment for bruises out of the nightstand drawer. Obediently, Evelyn sat up, pulling back the covers without a shred of self-consciousness and presenting her backside. Her eyes sparkled as they met his. Leo, when you see the bruises on me, does it give you a sense of accomplishment? Leo didn't speak. He just sighed heavily, looked up, and met her eyes. Does it hurt? He asked. Evelyn fell silent. Her heart gave a strange little flutter. You don't actually enjoy playing these games with me, do you? I asked if it hurts. No, then it wasn't satisfying. I'll have to try harder next time, Leo said, the gravity on his face suddenly vanishing, replaced by a playful grin. None of it escaped Evelyn's notice. Leo, you don't have to force yourself to understand me. I won't make you play along next time. If I have to choose between playing along and not understanding, I'd rather play along. Why? Because I have no right to judge you from some moral high ground. You're not out on the street affecting anyone else. In your own bedroom, you can do whatever you want. If I were holed up at home playing video games when I was upset, and someone jumped in and didn't understand, telling me I was wasting my youth, I want to slap them twice. Leo finished applying the ointment and stood up to leave, but Evelyn called him back. Leo, will you come again? We'll see about next time, but we're having dinner together on New Year's. Then you should come over early on New Year's Eve. I'm a great cook. That way you can still make it home for your family's dinner. Leo glanced at her, then turned back and ruffled her hair. You should come over early. Help my mom out. It'll be a good chance for you two to meet. Evelyn watched Leo's back as he pulled on his jacket and left. A gentle smile spread across her face, like a bonfire faintly visible through a storm of snow and rain. Lying in the small bed at Leo's house, Willow Shung tossed and turned, unable to sleep. She stared at the string of messages from her mother on her phone and fell into deep thought. The messages were all variations on a theme. Willow, how did it go? Did Leo agree to the engagement? Willow, why aren't you answering? Willow, mommy is going crazy here. You can't be so slow about the most important thing in your life. Willow took a deep breath, lying stiffly on her side. The voice of her inner demon drifted from the other side of the room, slow and unhurried. What are you tossing and turning for? You weren't eavesdropping at Dr. Shaw's door earlier, were you? Who would do something like that? Then why aren't you asleep? You want me to go to the couch? No, it's fine. Willow lay perfectly still and said nothing more. But one phrase echoed in her mind. Who would do something so humiliating? She would never admit to eavesdropping. She was just passing by the door and happened to overhear a few things. There was no official definition of eavesdropping, right? My greatest appeal comes from her imagination. Leo's voice replayed in her head. She felt he was right. She really didn't know him at all. Almost every time they met, he shattered the image she had of him. Maybe Leo is right. I shouldn't get engaged. Willow's heart was a tangled mess. Her mind was in chaos again. Tonight was destined to be a sleepless one. The sun was high in the sky. Apex Media. Leo was pretending to look over financial reports, not that he understood any of them. He'd glance at them for a second and sign. He was here to see Peyton. If he was going to play a puzzle game, he had to take it seriously. Cousin-in-law, a fiancé, isn't technically a wife. Why are you always dressing like you're starring in the Real Housewives of Riverbend? Even in modern times, an elegant updo was no longer the exclusive domain of married women. The rich stepmom aesthetic was even trending among the younger crowd, but you could still spot the look from a mile away. It was in the posture, the accessories, the makeup. The contrast was even more striking next to the sleeping Willow on the couch. Though also a fiancée, she would never wear high heels and a form-fitting dress like Payton, nor a lavish pendant around her neck. Her steps weren't the same delicate, seductive sway. Payton didn't answer his question, instead feigning surprise. What wind blew our young master in today? Young master? Where'd that come from? Does my grandpa call me his third-rate grandson when I'm not around? Leo grumbled, then got to the point. I need to ask you about something. I know. It's about the plan before the accident, right? It's about your next plan. Leo wasn't some greenhorn who would walk right into a trap. This woman was probably just waiting for him to step in her snare, feed him a couple of lies he couldn't verify. My life plan is to be your mole. Any movement from Uncle Rick or Ethan lately? No. Peyton shook her head, her face a mask of guilt and pitiful helplessness. I'm sorry. I really haven't heard anything recently. It's fine. Let's keep talking about your plans. Leo waved off her apology. We can talk about anything. Like how big of a house you want to live in, what car you want to drive, where you want to travel, what your workout schedule is for next week. Why are you asking me all this? Just answer me. A courtyard in the Miller estate. The family driver for transportation. I want to go back up north and travel around properly. And 3 days of Pilates next week. And working with me gets you a courtyard in the Miller estate and a private driver. Peyton shook her head with a bitter smile, her tone self-deprecating. Why would you ever marry me? Peyton, it's a waste of your talent not working at the Cypress Lounge. In Leo's mind, everything Peyton said could be a lie. Her expressions, her tone, her words, he couldn't trust a single one. He was even starting to think that the absurdly ridiculous story about borrowing a stud was also a fabrication. I need to get a handle on the company, so I'm staying here to learn from you today. The boss is here to supervise. Looks like the good days are over. Peyton sighed, but she obediently pulled up a chair next to the desk and placed a stack of files on it. There's not much daily work, really. We're only managing Summer Lynn right now. Then what do you do in the office all day? Shouldn't your daily routine be spa days and boutique shopping? Anything gets boring if you do it too much. I'd rather just relax in the office. How much money is in your bank account? It wasn't that Leo was prying. A person's savings were a key indicator of their life status. Do you have to ask that, boss? Peyton fidgeted with her hair, stalling. After meeting Leo's insistent gaze several times, she finally surrendered. If you include my credit card limit. Who counts their credit limit as part of their savings? I have less than $150,000 in my account. Leo was genuinely shocked to hear that. Peyton was way beyond your basic gold digger. She was top tier. And after all her maneuvering within the Miller family, she only had about $150,000 to her name. The money Uncle Rick flashed from between his fingers was probably more than that. Are you messing with me? Leo, I swear, if you ask me a serious question, I won't lie to you. Who would believe your promises? Leo would have to be an idiot to trust her. If you don't believe me, there's nothing I can do. You've never believed me anyway. Don't you have that cosmetics company? The money's not in your personal account. It's tied up in the business, right? I pulled out of that company in August. Dump it all on my partners. You can check that easily. And the money from selling the company? I gave it back to the Miller family. Gave it back. This time, Leo was truly baffled. Wait, have I misjudged you this whole time? What kind of gold digger gives the money back? You'd be laughed out of the Gold Diggers Association. Leo calculated the timeline and came up with a strange theory. Wait a minute. I had my accident in September. You sold your company in August. Is there a connection? Yes. You saw me as a rising stock and were getting ready to buy in high, right? I was afraid the plan would fail and I'd need the money to run. Would you believe that? No. Try another one. But that's the truth, Peyton said, shrugging helplessly. Then why did you give the money back to the Millers? When the cosmetics company was going under, I negotiated a deal with your Uncle Rick to take out a $17 million personal loan with the company as collateral. I sold my shares and pulled out. If I didn't pay the money back, wouldn't that be running off with their money? But you were planning to run off anyway. Leo was getting more and more confused. You sold your company because you were worried about failure and needed getaway money. But from Peyton's perspective, Leo's amnesia was a failure. So why didn't she run? Was her left brain arguing with her right brain? Pete's in sight. Because I wanted to run with you. Am I a gold bar? Why do you have to take me with you when you run? Leo was getting more and more lost. Seriously, what is our relationship? Over $1 million, gone just like that, all for the sake of taking him with her? Was he really that valuable? I've heard your story. Assuming it's all true, there's no reason you'd have to take me with you. Let me get this logic straight. First, you approached me with a motive, became my client. We had a financial relationship. Second, I went home with you, pretended to be your boyfriend, and we talked a lot. We were friends. Finally, before the accident, you warned me about it, and we decided to work together. At that point, we were accomplices. Peyton nodded, confirming his account. Seeing her nod only confused Leo more. At best, they were comrades in arms. At worst, they were accomplices, each with their own agenda. Since when was that kind of relationship so devoted? Before the accident, you sold off your assets to run away with me. And I left behind a USB drive as a precaution against you. So it turns out I'm the heartless bad guy here. Leo, none of that matters. Can we please stop dwelling on the past? What's wrong with asking? The problem is that no matter what I say, you'll think it's a lie. If I could, I'd love to be the star of my own mafia game, just like Summer Lynn, just to have one chance to be proven right. Peyton really didn't want to keep going over this. Neither did Leo, but there was no way around it. Peyton's case involved the privacy of the Miller family and her clients, so there were no records of it at Evelyn's clinic. Summer only knew bits and pieces. He really had no way of verifying the past. The thought gave Leo a headache. Until he could verify the truth, some things would have to be put on hold. But that was fine. He had a second matter to attend to. Help me find out what my Uncle Wild is up to every day. Why are you focused on your eldest uncle? Because he's been in the shadows for too long. Peyton nodded, indicating she understood. She then shared a piece of information. The family has scheduled your engagement party for New Year's Day. Oh, whatever. Leo stood up and walked over to the still sleeping Willow on the couch. He gently shook her awake. If you're this tired, why didn't you just stay home and sleep? It's okay, Willow mumbled, her voice small. It was hard to tell if she was talking in her sleep. Even if I'm asleep, I can still audit. Leo sighed and took off his jacket, draping it over her like a blanket. Let her sleep for a bit. I'm going to go see Summer Lynn. Leo, are you really sure about this engagement? Peyton asked. It's just a ceremony, and I'm not paying for it. Then what did you mean by auditing? At first, Peyton had thought Leo had found some clumsy spy to eavesdrop on his conversations. That was until Leo's hand slid under her blouse. This is what I mean, Leo whispered. Her long, almond-shaped eyes didn't turn to look at him. Instead, she stared straight at Willow. Leo, your fiancée is right there. What if she goes back to the family and starts gossiping? Go to the next room. Good point. Leo decisively pulled his hand away and left the office without a backward glance, a faint smile on his lips. Peyton was definitely hiding something from him. Something big. A person's body is more honest than their words. In the few times Leo had been intimate with Peyton, the deepest contact had been in the story where they lay in the same bed or after his amnesia when he took her home from the lounge. They had never been deeply intimate. But the human body has an immediate reaction to sudden intimacy, a momentary, subconscious flinch, a hand raised to block, goosebumps. But Peyton had been completely at ease. In that moment, aside from her body going soft, there was no other subconscious reaction. This, at the very least, was indirect proof that Leo had touched her plenty of times before. He'd practically given her muscle memory. What kind of relationship do you have to develop that kind of habit? It certainly couldn't be just a client, a friend, or an accomplice. Leo shook his head and walked out. If she didn't want to talk, there was nothing he could do. Peyton's eyes were quietly fixed on Willow. Just as the angel-faced girl cracked open an eye to peek, her gaze met Peyton's long, almond-shaped ones. Willow froze. Busted. Cousin-in-law, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to peek. I'm the one who should be sorry. Peyton walked over to the couch and sat down beside Willow. Willow, how are things going with my cousin? Leo says I don't understand him at all. Tell me what happened, Peyton said, successfully changing the subject from fiancé watches fiancé cheat to cousin-in-law gives fiancé relationship advice. The memory of Willow's dark transformation was still vivid in her mind. This girl was not to be trifled with. She had a beast mode. Anyway, I really can't accept it, Willow began slowly. As her dark state faded, her sense of right and wrong returned. Both Dr. Shaw last night and Peyton today had made her feel that she was destined for an unhappy marriage. What good was engagement? Leo would never value her. Don't dream the impossible dream. Those extreme measures were nothing but an empty fantasy. No matter what she did, Leo would never love her. Cousin-in-law, I have to go home. My mom's worried. I've been gone for a day and a night. Seeing the dejected look on Willow's face, Peyton let out a long sigh. She couldn't help but offer a few more words. Willow, have you ever tried to take off the fiancé identity? But we are an engaged couple. A normal engaged couple goes from being in love to getting engaged. You two skipped the process and went straight to the result. Of course your efforts are pointless. Then, what should I do? An engagement, like a confession of love, is a victory celebration, not the signal to charge into battle. So don't bring up the engagement party anymore. The more you force him, the further away he'll get. Interact with him as yourself. Do the things you want to experience with him. Willow suddenly felt like she was having a breakthrough. What her cousin-in-law was saying made sense. Thank you, cousin-in-law. I think I understand now. You're welcome. It's what I should do. Peyton wasn't a particularly kind person. She just figured that if she had to choose, Willow ascending to the position was better than Isabella. If Isabella were the one getting engaged, Peyton's future would be very difficult. Seeing the seemingly enlightened young woman, Peyton smiled with relief. Cousin-in-law, if you understand all this, then why are you still? Willow's big eyes were full of questions. Peyton's smile froze. She struggled to speak. Willow, do you really have to rub salt in my wounds? If I had a better hand to play, do you think it would ever have been your turn? Leo had originally planned to talk to Summerlin. Dr. Shaw had told him to try and simulate the feelings from before his amnesia, but the moment he saw Summer, he gave up on the idea. How was he supposed to simulate this? The instant he saw her, the only thought that flashed through his mind was awkward. Honestly, he had no idea how to interact with Summerlin. She was just too passive when she was around him. When Leo had amnesia and didn't know how to interact with anyone, the original hospital trio had spent a few frantic minutes showcasing their personalities and actively establishing a dynamic with him. Peyton had been even more explosive, throwing ethics out the window just to build some kind of connection. The others all maintained a certain degree of self-confidence when they faced him. Only Summer, no matter how far she'd come on her own, was still the one whose personality was completely suppressed the moment she stood in front of him. She just passively followed his lead. Leo knew the source of the awkwardness. It was the dynamic they had built over years and years. There were only two ways to solve it. Either Summer had to change, or she had to get amnesia too. So Leo just planned to make a symbolic appearance, ask a few token questions about her upcoming concert, and leave it at that. He was actually looking forward to the concert, not for any particular reason, other than the fact that he'd never been to one in his life. Or maybe he had, but he'd forgotten, which was the same as never having been. Going to someone else's concert meant buying a ticket, right? But going to Summerlin's concert, he could definitely get in for free. That alone made it worth checking out. Even his mom, when she heard that her little Summer was having a concert, had wondered if they could go. But the moment Summer saw Leo, her eyes lit up and she hurried over. Leo, I called my cousin yesterday. He told me to take you to some familiar places. Dr. Morris? Yeah. So I was thinking we could go for a walk around our old high school campus. Maybe some other time. You must be busy with rehearsals for the next few days. Leo waved a hand and turned to leave. He didn't want to see familiar places and Dr. Morris was, after all, a respected doctor at a major hospital. But he was terrified that Summer would start talking and then start crying, going on about how things used to be, all that sentimental drama. Leo just couldn't relate, and he didn't want to hear it. In a relationship that was already over, the worst thing was when one person had moved on and the other kept trying to drag them back. But just as Leo turned, Summer made a little scoffing sound, her arms crossed over her chest. Don't tell me my ex-hubby won't even spare a few words for me. Oh, Leo was surprised. He hadn't expected her to say something like that. It was sarcastic, but it was a hell of a lot better than tears. In this kind of atmosphere, he could actually talk to her for a minute. He sat down on the floor of the rehearsal studio and looked at the wall-to-wall mirror. It's an honor for you to have an ex-hubby as handsome as me. In Leo's mind, the old Summer would have just nodded obediently and said, You really are handsome. Your ex-wife isn't so bad herself. I don't allow anyone to be more full of themselves than me. Oh yeah? I've got something even better. The day after tomorrow, I'm taking your mom and my mom for a checkup. If there's any problem, we'll do surgery right away. You know why? Because I bought them both major illness insurance a year ago, and I was just waiting for the 1-year waiting period to be over before they got their checkups. How much? I'll transfer it to you. As a son, Leo had been negligent in some things. I don't want it. Summer fiddled with the ends of her hair in the mirror. This was all part of my plan back when I was a trainee. Next, I'm going to the Social Security office to sort out their pensions. Their old jobs weren't formal, so they still haven't paid in enough years. I'll just put them on the payroll at Apex Media. I'll pay for the company to handle their contributions. Hey, you always have a way, Summer said, turning to give him a thumbs up as she stretched against the mirror. Then I'll have to ask the big star to help me take care of my mom. She never wants to bother me with anything. You don't have to ask. I practically grew up in your house. I'm already half her daughter. Besides, I leashed off you for so long. I was hoping to return the favor, but you don't need it. So I can only help you take care of your mom. Leo found a feeling strangely wonderful. Summer felt less like an ex-girlfriend and more like a sister. It made even more sense in the context of their story. They were like a brother and sister who had grown up in poverty, practically depending on each other. The tag-along little sister wants to pursue her dream. The brother puffs out his chest and says, Don't be afraid, I've got you. They would fight, but in the end, they were both working for the same family. Summer, I'm getting engaged. Do you think I should tell my mom? Leo asked, relaxing on the studio floor, troubled by the engagement question. I know. Your fiancé told me. I think it's better not to tell your aunt. I think so too. If she's there, it'll feel like a really formal ceremony. I'm going, Summer said, patting her chest. In the rehearsal room, with just the two of them, she peeled off her sweaty practice clothes, revealing a tight-fitting tank top underneath. Could the big star please be a little more mindful of her image? Summer shot back, scolding him for making a big deal out of nothing. When I used to sleep over at your place, I'd just wear a white t-shirt, not even a bra. Wear whatever you want. I've always thought of you as my sister anyway. Summer felt like she'd just heard something truly outrageous. She spun around, her eyes wide, and stared at Leo sitting on the floor. You think of me as your sister? Yeah, you slept with your own sister? You're worse than an animal. Leo's heart sank. Crap, I forgot about that part. I was young and stupid. Leo, I seriously suspect you have some weird kinks. You never used to tell me anything. Fess up now. Have you always thought of me as your sister? What didn't I tell you? I told you I got my first period, but you never told me about your wet dreams. If I didn't tell you, how did you know? I found out when I was washing your underwear. You washed my underwear. Leo, sitting cross-legged on the floor in front of the mirror, looked up in surprise. Summer, standing next to him, wiping her sweat, had only 4 words written on her face. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Leo, besides you, I'm the biggest victim of your amnesia. No crying, okay? Don't complain. Just accept reality. I'm not going to cry, Summer said, rolling her eyes and asking Leo to help wipe the sweat off her back. When's the engagement, anyway? I'm going too. Where are you going for? I can't get engaged, so I can't even watch. It's on New Year's Day. Summer froze, slowly turning her head. Leo, are you doing this on purpose so I can't go? What are you talking about? New Year's Day is my concert. The engagement party and the concert were in conflict. So, he had to choose the engagement party. No choice. A concert was just entertainment. If you had real business to attend to, you just didn't go. Still, the whole scenario felt like something out of a melodramatic TV show. My ex-boyfriend is getting engaged while I'm working for him. Leo allowed a heartless laugh and turned to leave. A concert was a huge production. You couldn't just take the day off because your boss approved it. Watching Leo's departing figure, Summer silently opened a group chat on her phone with only 3 members. Summer, is the engagement really on January 1st? Evelyn, you can thank our great cousin-in-law for that. Peyton, delete the chat history. Don't leave evidence. If Leo finds out, there'll be trouble again. Evelyn, your problem is you're too cautious. If you had saved any evidence from before, you wouldn't be in this position where you can't flip the script. Peyton, shut up, you witch. Evelyn, ooh, the real witch gets the prize, while the fake one can't even get a taste. Evelyn, image. JPG, a picture of bruise. Summer, what kind of weird-ass group chat has my phone dad drag me in now? Peyton, there's a child in this group. Summer, who's the child? Evelyn, sex is a natural part of life. Long-term sexual repression can lead to serious psychological problems. Peyton, don't pretend. You didn't get any either. Evelyn, Peyton, smug face emoji. If you had, you wouldn't be chatting with us right now. You'd be sending a video to Isabella and sounding the first trumpet of war. Evelyn, there's a child in this group. Summer, don't at me. I've actually had some. The fact that the engagement party and the concert were on the same day was Peyton's doing. Leo had gotten used to using Peyton as his communication channel with the family, and the family had gotten used to it too. Plus, Leo didn't really care about the engagement party anyway. So all Peyton had to do was vaguely ask Uncle Rick, is New Year's Day okay for the engagement party? And he wouldn't ask any further questions because he didn't care either. Just give him a date. It was just an engagement, not a wedding. Any day would do. Peyton and Evelyn, those 2 witches, had inexplicably reached a consensus on this matter. Whether their motives were the same was anyone's guess. But what did any of this have to do with Summer? She couldn't figure it out. She didn't know why she was being told all this. Just as she was puzzling over it, wondering if she should report them to Leo, a private message from Evelyn popped up. Evelyn, I trust you won't snitch. Summer, you trust the wrong person. I don't know you that well. Evelyn, you can snitch, but then this treatment plan will fail again. Summer, what treatment plan? Evelyn, the treatment for his amnesia, of course. You don't have to do anything. Just focus on your concert. Summer, well, I at least need to know what you're planning. Evelyn, I guarantee this plan will trigger an emotional response in Leo. It might even restore his memory. And the biggest beneficiary of that would be you. Summer's breath hitched. She wanted Leo to come to her concert, and she wanted him to get his memory back. She didn't have to do anything but hold her concert. The only thing she had to do was keep this a secret. It seemed simple enough. Summer replied with a single word. Okay. Then she immediately selected the messages and forwarded them all to Leo. Ex-hubby, open your eyes and look. The witches outside are sharpening their claws. Riverbend Estates is your only safe harbor. Summer put down her phone and let out a little scoff. She laughed at how Evelyn had overestimated her. From a young age, she had reported everything to him, down to the date of her period. How could she possibly keep something this big a secret? She had seriously underestimated the loyalty of a tag-along. The days passed quickly. Christmas arrived quietly. This is Ethan Miller. Today is Christmas, and it's the 10th day of being myself. If you could be yourself like me, I can only say that's just so cool. Ethan stood on a yacht, the sea breeze whipping through his damp hair. He held his phone high and recorded his declaration. These videos were Dr. Shaw's idea, a way to document his daily life and observe changes in his behavior patterns. After putting his phone down, Ethan stared out at the vast ocean, his expression ecstatic. He spread his arms wide, closed his eyes, and shouted, "Aya!" He felt like he could live this life forever, shedding the shackles of the past. Today, he finally knew who he was. On the first day, he had only dared to express his rebellious thoughts. On the third day, he started skipping work. On the fifth day, he stopped going home. On the seventh day, he blocked everyone in his contacts, except for his father, Frank. On the ninth day, he blocked Frank too. Today was the 10th day, Christmas, and he had gone straight out to sea. This feeling of the whole world being my home, except for my actual home, is amazing. Ethan lay back in the cabin, enjoying a massage from a male friend, his eyes closed in bliss. He didn't have to think about his father's scowling face. Even if his father wanted to contact him, he couldn't. "Mr. Miller, there's a call for you. Weren't your phones confiscated?" "It's the captain." Ethan froze, a bad feeling creeping over him. The pressure seemed to seep out of his very bones, weighing him down. A true master pressure didn't even need to make sound. A single signal was like a 1,000-pound boulder crashing down. "Hey, Dad, what are you doing?" "On a yacht." "It's the holidays, just out having some fun," Ethan said, making his first real act of defiance. His tone was light, but the pressure master only uttered a single syllable. That one had Ethan on the verge of blurting out his coordinates. "I'm on a yacht, having a party. 7 of us. We've had a bit to drink. We'll be heading back in about an hour. I can head back now if you want. I could be home in about an hour. 7 people. All guys." After Ethan said that, there was silence on the other end of the line. The once joyful yacht fell silent. Ethan's expression was a mixture of torment and struggle as he held the phone, waiting for his silent father to pass judgment. But at that moment, a certain psychologist's suggestion kicked in. "Be rebellious, Ethan." Ethan's expression flickered. Countless pre-planned scripts of rebellion flashed through his mind. He spoke before the pressure master could. "Frank, I'm having fun. What are you going to do about it?" "What did you call me?" "You're getting old, Frank." "I said it. What do you do to me?" Ethan hung up the phone. He scrambled to the bow of the boat and roared at the vast, empty ocean. This was freedom. This was rebellion. Awesome. In that moment, Ethan saw a school of fish leap from the water, saw a seagull circle overhead. He eagerly rushed back into the cabin to share his journey with someone. Ethan Miller, today I finally know who I am. I'm not fighting for the family fortune. Give it all to my cousin. My fiancée is still mine, but she can do whatever she wants. I don't care. I'm going to be rebellious. If Frank tells me to go east, I'll go west. If Frank tells me to go home, I won't. Ethan took a huge swig of alcohol, his eyes full of fiery spirit. Then he saw the captain waving at him. "What's going on?" "Mr. Miller, we have to head back." "When did I say we were heading back?" "I'll pay extra." "It's not about the money. Your father gave the order." "Give me a kayak. I'll survive at sea. I'm not going back." Leo used to celebrate Christmas. The Cypress Lounge never missed an opportunity to squeeze money out of its patrons. Only a fool would pass up such a prime marketing opportunity. But today, Leo didn't want to go anywhere. "Mom, Summer said she's taking you for a checkup tomorrow. Your Aunt Lynn is going too. We'll go together. I'll go with you tomorrow. It's just a checkup. Why do we need so many people?" His mom put the food on the table, motioning for him to sit. "Son, are you and Isabella still fighting? Why are you suddenly asking about her?" "Mom thinks that girl isn't bad, just a bit stubborn." "Not just a bit. She's extremely stubborn." Leo was tapping away on his phone. He wasn't just sitting around. He was gradually taking over the internal operations of the lounge. In fact, he had spent the entire morning at the lounge dealing with the Christmas event. Silas was helping him with the other, less visible aspects of the handover. Leo handled the internal affairs of the lounge with ease. It was only a matter of time before he was firmly in control. That morning, on the second floor of the lounge, Leo had casually asked about the transfer price. He knew Silas probably saw him as a surrogate son to take care of him in his old age, but he wasn't his real dad. You should still pay what it was worth. But Silas didn't say a word, just kept staring intently at the legs of a female streamer on his phone. After a long while, he finally looked up. What's the rush? The day I retire, you won't be able to run even if you wanted to. Leo sighed. It seemed Silas wasn't going to take any money. The old man was already financially independent. Who knew how much he was worth? What could Leo possibly do to repay him? As Leo was pondering this, Silas suddenly spoke up, pointing at his phone and complaining. This streamer said she'd add me on WhatsApp if I sent her a rocket. Why'd she block me after 2 messages? Silas, stop using all these alternate accounts to send gifts. If you use your main account, your level will be high, and they'll naturally suck up to you. What do you know? You think I like them sucking up to me? I like it when they look down on people. Then, when they're in a PK battle, I'll go to the other side and shower them with gifts. That'll drive them crazy. Leo laughed helplessly and glanced at Silas. You know, Silas, that's why we get along. No matter how rich you get, you're still a troll at heart. Get out of here. Who are you calling a troll? Silas lay back on his bamboo chair, picked his nose, and expertly flicked it away. Silas, how about this? You go be the boss at my media company for a few days? Even a dog wouldn't want your crappy company. Leo tapped the small wooden table, indicating Silas had misunderstood. I'm not asking you to go make money. I'm asking you to go have fun. There are a few aspiring stars at the company who are trying their hand at live streaming. You can use your burner accounts to send them gifts, let them look down on you, and then you call a company-wide meeting. Imagine it. They've just finished dissing you, and then they look up and realize you're the boss. Instant gratification, right? When Silas heard this plan, he sat up straight, his breathing quickening. You really know how to have fun. This kind of fun is perfect for rich trolls like us. Leo propped his feet up on the tatami mat, sipping an iced Coke. When he got older, he was going to do the same thing. Tacky? Tacky was the point. If it wasn't tacky, would it even be satisfying? Leo even laid out an advanced version of the plan. After you get tired of that, you can invest in me. I'll put together a team and create a golden years dating show for you. I'll secretly find all your old flames. The show will be a reunion of all your ex-girlfriends, a sunset years version of a romantic battlefield. When the show airs, everyone will be flooding the comments with "This old guy is so cool. What a legend." Satisfying or what? This idea left Silas stunned. After a long pause, he finally said, I'm in on this project. My only condition is no script. That's the easy part. Where did you learn all this? There's a world of beauty in books. You should read more. Leo took a profound sip of his iced Coke. What books? Domestic or foreign? Literary classics or web novels? Leo said nothing more, just pointed to the large novel app icon on his phone. Silas, you can rest easy leaving the lounge to me. I guarantee your retirement will be full of satisfying moments. Then I'll leave it to you. Or maybe I should experiment on my own first. Silas was clearly eager to try, but Leo decisively shook his head. You have to let me arrange this. Otherwise, it won't be as satisfying. Let me give you an example. Your childhood sweetheart and ex-girlfriend ends up being your employee. Sounds satisfying, right? Hell yeah. I can responsibly tell you, it's nowhere near as satisfying as you think. So you have to listen to the great scriptwriter Leo's arrangements. Okay, you arrange it. When do I go to your company to be the boss? Anytime. Back at the lounge, sipping his iced Coke, Leo had reflected on his own life. He felt his life was pretty satisfying too. Shocking. Car crash victim is actually a rich young master. But something was still missing. Leo silently swore to himself. I'm going to live a wish fulfillment life. At the dinner table, Leo emerged from his thoughts to find his mom looking at him with concern. Son, did your fight with Isabella really hit you that hard? No, just thinking about something. Then tell me, do you actually like that girl from the Shung family? It's just an arranged marriage. The old man's orders. I know. So what are you going to do? It's just for show. Once the old man is gone, no one will care. Son, what if the old man lives for another 10 years? You'll be in your 30s by then. After the last incident, his mom had become much more concerned about his love life. 30 is fine. Willow is willing to do this. It's not like I'm forcing her. What I mean is, it's not worth wasting your youth on this family business. No matter who you like, Mom will support you. We can worry about the outcome later. But at least this process, I hope you can spend it with someone you like, not just dragging it out because of family matters. A few years will pass in the blink of an eye. His mom didn't say much more. She put down her bowl, went to her room, and came out dressed to go out. I see all the young people celebrating Christmas. You should go out too. Don't just stay cooped up at home. You're going out to celebrate too? I'm going to the corner store to play mahjong. I left you some money to have fun. I'm a grown man. Why do you still talk to me like I'm a kid? His mom, wearing a thick cotton jacket and a wool hat, turned back with a smile. No matter how old you are, you're still my son. Now go find me a daughter-in-law. Mom, we might have people over for New Year's Eve dinner. Oh, if they come, Mom will give them big red envelopes, she said, beaming. Then you should prepare a few more. It's not certain. His mom's smile faded. She silently pulled on her gloves and walked out. Son, our dining table only seats 6. You'd better keep that in mind. The Grind, a coffee shop just outside Northwood University. The reflection of a girl wearing reindeer antlers shimmered on the glass wall, a cheerful echo of the Christmas tree by the door. The girl with the antlers was, of course, Skylar Reed, her fluffy sweater adding a touch of lazy charm to her vibrant personality. Ms. Vance, what brings you here to see little old me? Have you been in touch with Leo recently? Nope. I've been super busy. I'm training hard in indoor rock climbing, so I can take on some of those legendary routes in Finland. My back is killing me, Skylar said, stirring her drink and looking curiously at the woman across from her. Are you here to ask about Leo? Not really, just asking. You're lying. I just want to know what you really think about Leo. I want to be with him, Skylar said, her eyes bright and clear. Then why are you? But before we can really be together, Leo and I both need to find ourselves first. Skylar rested her chin on her hand and opened her phone to show Isabella a series of photos. Leo and I have been to a lot of places together, done a lot of things that only people in love do. But after all that was done, I suddenly realized one day that I didn't know how to move forward. Work, make money, go to grad school, start family, or just live our own lives, meeting up for dinner and a date now, and then getting a hotel room when the need arises. None of that felt right for us. That's when I realized, after the wild, fun phase was over, our paths no longer intersected. Because becoming a couple is easy. You just need 2 people who like each other to confess, give a bouquet of flowers, or hug. But after you become a couple, how do you walk the road ahead? Skylar tilted her head as she spoke, answering every question with sincerity, even though the person sitting in front of her was perhaps her biggest rival for Leo's heart. Isabella was moved. Under the table, her hand, hidden beneath her trench coat, shifted slowly. Becoming a couple wasn't the point. The most important thing was how to walk the road ahead. She knew where she had lost. When 2 very self-centered people are together, there is no road ahead. Leo, before they even officially became a couple, had already made a compromise for the future, willing to let bygones be bygones. She hadn't. Isabella pursed her lips and stirred her coffee. So what are you going to do? We'll each work hard on our own paths. Since our roads no longer meet, we'll just have to try our best separately. Isn't that giving up? No. The most wonderful thing about love is that no one gets to define what it is. Helping someone in their time of need is love. Thinking of someone from across the ocean is love. Seeing someone pathetic and wanting to hold them in your arms is also love. Isabella was self-centered, which could be interpreted as, I'm always right. But when she realized she was wrong, she would try to fix it. And so, a certain maid contract reappeared in her mind. She had actually figured out how to apologize after that drunken night. She just needed to understand where she had gone wrong. As for why she chose this particular way of apologizing, because she had to admit that before his amnesia, Leo's playbook had been right. We can only maintain a balance by keeping our sugar baby relationship. This also aligned with what Skylar had said. Becoming a couple isn't the point. The most important thing is how to walk the road ahead. So if I'm the one being kept now, that should be fine, right? Is that a sincere enough apology? Wait, what am I thinking? Sitting in her car, Isabella shook her head, trying to banish the fantasy of being a maid. But her hand still instinctively opened a shopping app, found a specific store, and pinged customer service about sizing. Because of her unusually long legs, she rarely bought clothes online. Most pants ended up being too short. But this, she felt, was better bought online. They even offered discreet shipping. When she learned it would take several days to arrive, she closed the app and called Anna. Do you know where I can buy that kind of outfit? You're going to have to be more specific. You know, like what maids wore in Victorian England. Lady, if you mean a maid costume, just say maid costume. If you mean lingerie, just say lingerie. What's with all this secrecy? Do you know a place or not? I do, but are you and your boy toy planning to play some Christmas games? Wait, didn't you two have a fight? Anna's voice on the other end of the line went silent as she seemed to connect the dots. Hiss, you're not really going to play the kept woman game, are you? Send me the location. I'll pick you up. We're going shopping. Look, Isabella, I know you have deep feelings for your boy toy, and he keeps you happy, but is this really necessary? Stay out of it. When Isabella finally had the maid costume in her hands, she hesitated, because Anna was giving her a crash course on what a maid actually does. Even though you're wearing a Western maid's outfit, I suggest you study the daily routine of an ancient Chinese handmaiden. That way, you'll at least have a chance to warm the master's bed. I can't even sleep in a bed. Of course not, unless the master gives you permission. You think you're still the boss. Not anymore. Isabella stuffed the bag with the costume into the trunk and decided to just go shopping with Anna instead. She wasn't going home. After all these days, she still hadn't learned how to sleep soundly on her own. Anna was, of course, happy to see this. The best part about going shopping with Isabella was that she paid for everything. At the entrance to the shopping district, there were always vendors selling kittens. How much for this little one? Willow asked, her finger teasing a kitten in a cage. She looked back at Leo, who was laden with shopping bags. Isn't this kitten cute? Not as cute as you. Why are you suddenly? Willow looked as if she'd heard something she couldn't process, her face turning red as she looked away. Sorry, occupational hazard. That was a bit cheesy. The kitten is cute. Willow shyly turned her head away, feeling a sudden weakness. She forced a change of subject. It's a pity we already have so many cats at home. We can't get another one. She shook her head, a hint of regret on her face, but she wasn't too unhappy. She was very happy today. When she had called Leo in the afternoon, his first question was, is there some procedure for the engagement I need to know about? But Willow didn't mention the engagement at all. She just waited for him to finish his rant and then said, slowly and calmly, it's Christmas today. I'm downstairs. Can you come out for a walk? And Leo had actually come out. He had dutifully accompanied her on a shopping trip all afternoon. It was easier to make a lovesick girl happy on a shopping trip than to stop a child from crying. All afternoon, Willow had been silently praising her cousin-in-law. Willow, after we're done, I'll take you home, okay? Okay. Willow nodded obediently. She wasn't greedy. There would be many more days like this. She would be paired with Leo at the engagement party, and then, like a flowing stream, they would slowly spend many ordinary days together. This was the life she had imagined, a life that would remain forever calm. So she wasn't in a rush. A simple shift in her mindset had brought her back to a state of peace. Leo placed the bags on a bench and shook his sore wrist. Willow, you need to be prepared for the possibility that I might not be able to make it to the engagement party. What? It was hard for Leo to explain. It all started with the message Summer had sent him. That intelligence operative was certainly diligent. But damn it, this was obviously Evelyn's doing. Did she not know that Summer was fiercely loyal? Asking her to keep a secret from Leo was about as likely as convincing Leo to get a vasectomy. The content of that chat was clearly meant for him to see. Leo sighed. He had come out to walk with the sweet fool precisely to find a chance to tell her this. Arranging the engagement party and the concert on the same day, you didn't need to be a genius to know something was up. He might not be able to attend the party himself, but it was only a possibility. This was just a heads up. Leo looked at Willow apologetically. Willow, I owe you one for this. This shopping trip doesn't count. Next time, you can ask for anything, and I'll do it. Okay? Leo, if I weren't your fiancé, would you not want to be around me at all? Why do you have to be so depressing on holiday? Here, let me buy you some reindeer antlers. Leo walked over to a small stall and for once bought something without haggling. $20 for one. What a ripoff. Leo, looking as if he'd just made a huge financial sacrifice, placed the antlers on Willow's head and admired her. So pretty. If you were wearing a Christmas-themed battle dress. Leo, is there something important you have to do that you can't come to the engagement party? I can ask my dad to talk to Grandpa Miller. That could work. I might be going to Summer Lynn's concert that day. It's just a possibility, you know, to see Summer Lynn's concert. Willow looked up, stunned, her expression shifting dramatically. Don't go dark on me. Leo quickly added, his mind racing. He knew this wasn't simple. It was definitely Evelyn's doing. As for why, she'd already told him to treat your illness. He didn't know if it was just his imagination or if his perception was skewed, but he felt like all of Evelyn's treatment methods had a hint of the cult about them. Was she going to use the concert to perform some kind of special ritual on him? The thought was amusing. As for the engagement, he didn't want to go anyway. I'm not going for the concert itself. Otherwise, we could just postpone the party by a day and everything would be fine. Then what are you going for? Willow's expression softened slightly. A lot of friends and family would be at the engagement party. If only the bride was there, it would inevitably lead to gossip. If there was a legitimate reason, it was understandable. Leo leaned in and whispered mysteriously in her ear. This is a treatment plan Dor Shaw arranged for me. In a few days, I might even get my memory back. Leo's face was full of confidence. Ever since Evelyn's last, long-winded theoretical explanation, he had started to believe in her. The woman had some tricks up her sleeve. Besides, he didn't have much choice. The great Dr. Morris just kept telling him to visit familiar places. Was the Cypress Lounge not familiar enough? He'd been back countless times, and his dead memories hadn't resurrected. The authoritative DR. Morris prescribed conservative treatment. The unorthodox DR. Shaw prescribed strong medicine. This time, he was all in. But Willow's expression didn't look quite right. You're gonna get your memory back. Can't say for sure. But what if? We have to at least try, right? So, not attending the engagement party and going to the concert will restore your memory? Willow's face was a perfect picture of "you've got to be kidding me." But she didn't refuse. She lowered her head and fiddled with her fingers, her voice soft. Then let me attend the engagement party alone. When the relatives point to the empty seat and ask me, "Where are your fiancé's parents?" I'll just say his parents don't know about the engagement. If the relatives have any objections, I'll tell them to talk to your Uncle Rick. They won't dare. If they ask me again, his parents don't know, but your fiancé should know, right? I'll say he knows, but didn't come because he had to go for treatment. If the relatives ask me, then why aren't you there taking care of your fiancé? I'll say it's not necessary. He's gone to his ex-girlfriend's concert for treatment. His ex-girlfriend will take care of him. Willow's voice grew quieter and quieter until it was a mosquito's buzz. She sat alone on the edge of a planter, playing with her fingers, the reindeer antlers on her head drooping slightly. It's okay. You can go. I can handle it alone. Willow, maybe we should change the date of the engagement party? Leo really wanted to cooperate with Evelyn's plan this time. If Willow had thrown a fit, he would have put on his usual cavalier attitude. But her meek, defeated posture made him feel a pang of guilt. Not showing up to his own engagement party was a real jerk move. Willow, I owe you one. I'll do anything you ask. But Willow just shook her head. She suddenly understood her dynamic with Leo. As long as she maintained the relationship of a fiancé in name only, they could coexist peacefully. If she overstepped, she would be met with a heavy blow. She had to face reality. The engagement party. He said he wasn't going, and he wasn't going. Leo, we're not on the same path, are we? Willow looked up, not waiting for an answer. She took off the reindeer antlers she had just bought and handed them back to him. Leo, the engagement party needs a ring. There's a proposal part. Can we skip that? You should buy one beforehand. Then I'll just say you already proposed, and the ring is already on my finger. Willow stood up, her face expressionless, and indicated that they should go back into the mall. She was treating the engagement party like a business transaction. Pick whatever you want. Price is no object, Leo said first. You have to pick it, because I'm giving it back to you after the party is over. Isn't it a proposal ring? The ring symbolizes the success of the proposer and the happiness of the one being proposed to. You don't want success, and I don't have happiness. Willow walked silently to the counter and, without even browsing, picked one out and put on. What other parts are there? If possible, you could ask a friend to record a proposal video. We could play at the party to make up for that part. I can do that. Leo paid for the ring without another word and nodded when he heard the request for a proposal video. Willow stared at the Christmas tree in the main hall, silent and unmoving. Isabella leaned against the second-floor railing of the mall, a Starbucks cup in her hand, feeling inexplicably irritable. Anna was looking down at the main hall, her eyes full of envy. Isabella, look, someone's proposing. When will a man ever propose to me? Anna watched the man kneeling on one knee in the hall below, her eyes a mix of envy and longing. Ah, that little couple is so cute together. Maybe their proposal video will even go viral. Can you please be quiet? Isabella, this is your problem. You have no feminine charm. Look at that girl, crying her eyes out. I want to kiss her myself. Then go ahead. Just don't bother me. Isabella, have you ever fantasized about being proposed to? At first, Isabella was about to retort, but an image of a certain figure inexplicably popped into her mind. She tried to construct a scene in her head, but it's hard to imagine something beyond your own experience. She had never seen a proposal in person before, so she turned her head to look at the cute little couple to see what a proposal looked like. Even a dream needed a template, right? And then she saw a familiar figure merge with the one in her mind. Well, not only did she not have to spend time constructing a scene in her head, she didn't even have to construct the characters. A ready-made template was right in front of her, except the one being proposed to wasn't her. So she turned her gaze to the girl who was crying tears of joy. Willow was crying her eyes out. To anyone watching, she was clearly moved to tears. The mall was bustling with Christmas shoppers. Even the sales clerks from the jewelry store were peeking out. Under the giant Christmas tree, she stood still, watching the man kneeling before her. Her tears flowed like a river in the dead of winter. But she wasn't crying tears of joy. Amid the surprised and envious gazes of the crowd, she seemed to have found immense happiness. Her boyfriend was on one knee, presenting her with a ring. Countless people were applauding their happiness, the sound of "marry him" echoing in her ears. But as Willow's fingers slowly slid into the ring, she looked around, her happy tears streaming down her face, and the resolve she had spent years cultivating completely shattered. Her parents thought she was going to marry him. Her friends and relatives thought she was going to marry him. The crowds in the mall thought she was going to marry him. When the video was posted online, every netizen who watched the proposal would think she was going to marry him. Only she knew that she could never marry him. And so, behind her back, where no one could see, she quietly slipped the ring off her finger. "Anything else you need to get ready?" Leo asked, holding up his phone and showing Willow the proposal video someone had just filmed for them. Willow just shook her head. Seeing her like that, Leo could only let out a soft sigh. Keeping things strictly business was the best possible outcome. As long as love didn't curdle into hate, he'd take it. "Should I take you home, then?" "Okay." Leo gave her a laundry list of instructions on the way out. For instance, the fact that he might not show up to the engagement party. She should keep that to herself for now, since it was only a possibility. And if he really didn't go, he hoped she could buy him some time with the family, keep Grandpa Miller from sending a posse to drag him back. Willow nodded to everything, which made Leo feel a little sheepish. "Willow, let's just go back to square one," he said gently. "Treat this engagement as part of our careers. We're equals. If you need help with anything, just tell me." "It's nothing," she said, "but the news of the engagement is already out. You should be more careful about your image when you're out, or the family will blame me." "What exactly are you referring to?" Willow's expression was flat as she pointed a finger toward the main entrance of the mall, toward Isabella Vance. Leo sighed again. "Fine." Isabella didn't know what she was feeling. All she knew was that no matter how hard Anna tried to pull her away, she wouldn't budge. "Izzy, a loser needs to act like a loser," Anna pleaded. "The guy just proposed. Are you trying to humiliate yourself?" Isabella remained silent, rooted to the spot, waiting for Leo to walk out. She didn't have anything to say. She was just pissed off and wanted to stir up some trouble. She saw Willow point at her. She saw Leo's eyes glance in her direction. "He saw me, and he's walking right past me." Leo brushed past Isabella at the mall's revolving door as if he hadn't seen her at all. Even Anna was stunned. She instinctively grabbed Isabella's arm, a silent plea not to do anything rash. She had a terrible feeling this was going to end in a bloodbath. "Leo," Isabella finally called out, turning around. "What is it?" Leo stopped and turned back, his tone casual. "Isao you propose." Isabella stood her ground as a few stray snowflakes began to fall, dusting her eyebrows. "Isn't it normal for a fiancé to propose to his fiancée?" Leo shrugged, hands stuffed in his pockets. They stood about 5 paces apart. Anna nervously wedged herself between them. Knowing her best friend's temper, she could already picture the scene. Isabella was about to start screaming. With so many people coming and going, a fight was the last thing they needed. But Isabella pushed Anna aside and strode forward until she was standing right in front of Leo. Her face was an unreadable mask. She only pointed a finger at her own chest. "This is killing me," she said, her voice tight. "You'll get over it," Leo replied, a sudden smile breaking across his face. "Are you really engaged to her? The party's on New Year's Day. You want to come?" Leo waved dismissively and turned to leave without a second's hesitation. Isabella called out to him again. "Leo, I was wrong. Why didn't you say that sooner?" "I didn't know sooner." "You really didn't know?" Leo shook his head, the soles of his shoes scraping against the pavement. "Before we even played that game of Mafia, I told you lying was the one thing I couldn't tolerate. But you still did it, didn't you?" There's only one reason a person knowingly makes a mistake. They don't believe there's a price to pay. Why have you been so stubborn all this time? Because you're used to getting away with it. You figured we'd have a Cold War for a few days and things would magically fix themselves. It was only today, when you saw things spiraling out of your control, that you realized you might have to back down. You know why you're so used to that? Because before I was on your payroll. It didn't matter what you did, because I had to be the one to forgive you. You were the empress, the boss. But now I want to date you. And this doesn't work. Leo shrugged, turned his back, and walked away, letting out a heavy sigh. Everyone else was enjoying their Christmas Eve, decked out in their holiday finery. His Christmas was just a pile of bullshit. He wanted to enjoy himself, too. "If we're just keeping things professional, do I still get to see the Christmas battle armor?" he asked his fiancée out of the blue. "What do you mean, professional?" "You know, fiancés on the surface." "Then why should I show you?" Willow's brow furrowed. "So stingy," Leo chuckled, rolling his eyes at her. Keeping things professional with Willow was for the best. At least they could interact comfortably. But was there really such a thing as unliking someone? Liking a person was like sending an "I like you" text after the 2-minute window to unsend it had passed. You sent it in a moment of passion, felt embarrassed when you got no reply, and wanted to take it back. But you couldn't. All you could do was damage control. Either you grit your teeth and launch an all-out offensive, like a saint turning to the dark side for the first time, or you pretend you never sent it, like a saint acting as if nothing ever happened. And then, that would slowly curdle into hate. That's what was going through Willow's mind. She desperately wanted to draw a line in the sand to make her position clear. She was even prepared to be strictly professional at the engagement party. If Leo didn't show, she'd just state the facts. He went to concert. If Grandpa Miller sent people to drag him back, that was none of her business. It was all professional after all. At least, that's what she was thinking. All the way until Leo put her in a taxi. And she was still thinking it when she realized he wasn't getting in with her. Where are you going? Just for a walk. Leo really was just walking. He ambled down the main road, through the bustling commercial district packed with young couples and delivery guys with bouquets of flowers strapped to their scooters. He didn't feel like going home yet, but he didn't know where else to go. So he just walked aimlessly. It wasn't like he had no one to hang out with. He opened his phone to over 100 messages. From his roommates. From Summerlin. From Peyton. From Dr. Shaw. From Skylar. He could reply to any one of them and have a place to go. But he kept walking, stopping at street corners, and gazing into the distance, as if waiting for something he couldn't name. Are we really just going to follow him? Anna had insisted on driving. She was afraid if Isabella got behind the wheel, she'd run Leo down. She'd never seen this expression on Isabella's face before. It was a terrifying sort of quiet. Why don't you just get out and apologize? Beg him a little. It's not that shameful. Why should I apologize? From what he just said, it was clearly your fault. Didn't you hear me apologize to him just now? Girl, your apology sounded more like you were putting out a hit on him. Can't you learn to be a little more feminine, a little flirty? So you also think I knowingly made a mistake because I thought there was no price to pay? Are you for real right now? Anna was exasperated. The fact that he even said all that to you means he's giving you a chance. Isabella was completely lost. She truly didn't understand any of this complicated nonsense about chances. Right now, only two things were on her mind. First, get Leo to comfort me, at least soften up a little. Second, use that as an opening to bring up the maid contract. That was it. That was all she could think about. When she said, "This is killing me," she just wanted him to comfort her a little. That way, she could bring up the maid contract herself. Otherwise, she couldn't bring herself to say it. Do I have to beg him just to sign a damn maid contract? With that thought, Isabella directed Anna to keep following Leo. I'll just follow you. Let's see where you end up. Leo ducked into a small barbecue joint and enjoyed a moment of peace. The second the lamb skewer hit his tongue, all his troubles melted away. Pure bliss. The place was mostly empty, and the owner was sitting nearby, scrolling through videos on his phone. After a minute, he looked up at Leo. "Hey kid, you're the guy from that proposal video." "That's me." "Well, hey, congratulations." "Thanks," Leo said, raising his water bottle in a small toast. When he finished eating and stepped outside, he immediately spotted Isabella's car. Anna rolled down the window, waving frantically at him. Leo walked over. "What's up? There's a little maid in here waiting for you." Anna couldn't take it anymore. Sometimes you just can't see the forest for the trees. This could all be solved with a single sentence. Why make it so complicated? A little maid? Leo was genuinely confused. Izzy even bought a maid outfit. She wanted to sign that maid contract to make it up to you. A maid contract? Her. Leo was floored. Isabella Vance wants to sign a maid contract? Is this some kind of reverse sugar baby situation? "I'm not interested," Leo said, shaking his head and walking away. He was interested, but not right now, because someone far more interesting had just appeared. "Holy Christmas battle armor," Leo muttered, staring at Willow, who had reappeared just 10 minutes after he'd dropped her off, now in a completely different getup. He was totally bewildered. Willow's Christmas outfit wasn't like the others. It wasn't some slinky dress designed for speed. It was a big, baggy Santa Claus suit. "What's this about? I decided that since we're still engaged, I should grant your request." "I was kidding, but I did it. So shouldn't you do what you promised me?" "What did I promise you?" "You promised you would grant me any request." "Right, I remember now. Go on, I'll agree to anything." "I want to date you," Willow said, her voice direct. "I don't want the title of fiancé anymore. We don't have to get engaged. I just want to properly date you." "Willow, I understand," Leo said, looking at the stubborn girl and lowering his voice. "And my answer is yes." He took a breath. "But first, I need to get my memory back, because I've realized I can't find myself anymore." It was rare for Leo to speak so softly. He led the girl in the Santa suit back to a table at the barbecue joint. "I'm rejecting you because I don't even know what I want. The memories I lost, they were a valuable part of my life. I feel like I'm not a whole person right now. Leo had been bottling this up for a long time, waiting for someone to confide in. But he couldn't. Every person he could talk to was inextricably linked to his past. They all had their own subjective idea of who he was. In each of their stories, they had created a completely different Leo. The responsible Leo, the money-hungry Leo, the vibrant Leo. So after a long and confusing search for his lost past, he was stumped. What do I actually want? A romance? To be a rich kid? To possess all these women? All of it seemed plausible, yet none of it felt quite right. I want to find myself first, he said, fiddling with the white beard of her Santa suit. The complete, unconfused version of me. So you really want to get your memory back? I think it might help, Leo nodded. But your past was bad, Willow said quietly. By what metric do we judge good and bad? High school is famously miserable, but when you look back, don't you sometimes miss it? I see, Willow said, looking up to meet his gaze. So, it's not that you don't like me, but it's not that I like you either. Is it because you're in a lot of pain right now? Pain is too dramatic. Let's call it a bit of internal confusion. Besides, my life is basically a wish fulfillment novel right now. My contract fiancé suddenly falls in love with me. How is that not awesome? If it's confusion, Willow said, nodding confidently, I think I can help you with that. She looked at him with an expert's assurance. What? Are you going to read me Taoist scriptures? Let's hear it. Leo figured that's what she meant. It sounded nice enough. Maybe he'd find a key insight in some ancient Eastern philosophy. But Willow shook her head. She pulled him out of the barbecue joint and into a dim alley nearby. This is where all the shops keep their dumpsters. What are we doing back here? Leo, the moment you feel happiness is the moment your mind becomes clear. What happiness? How is hiding in an alley? Whoa. It was no wonder Leo was taken aback. The scene before him was explosive. The Santa suit was thrown open, revealing a vibrant Christmas outfit underneath. I wore the Santa suit because it's cold, Willow said timidly. So I put it on over this. Who taught you this? You did. You said you love to see a saint fall from grace. You'd better recite a couple of those calming scriptures for me. My heart's getting a little unsteady. From now on, whenever you feel confused, just find me. I'll recite scriptures for you while wearing whatever you like to see. Leo couldn't help but laugh, an image of some strange future flashing through his mind. His laugh was a little lecherous, but Willow found her courage, stood on her tiptoes, and whispered in his ear. Leo, I only know the you from after the amnesia. At first, I thought that was a disadvantage. But now I know. It's my greatest strength. I only love the you that exists right now. It has nothing to do with who you were before. Willow's change of heart stemmed from a single thought. She had suddenly realized that she wasn't all that upset about Leo not going to the engagement party. An engagement party was supposed to witness happiness, but there was nothing happy about their situation. She even imagined how awful it would be to stand there in that awkward relationship, faking a smile the entire time. That's when she realized how foolish her previous dark phase had been. She had thought Leo's rejection was because of Isabella, or Dr. Shaw, or Summerlin. But when she saw him arguing with Isabella with her own eyes, she felt it in her gut. Leo was in a strange state. The usually proactive Leo seemed to be deliberately pushing everyone away. Their conversation by the lake floated back into her mind. She knew Leo was in a hurry, but what was he rushing for? She didn't know, so she decided she wanted to find out. She had stumbled, by accident, over the first threshold of love. I want to understand him. She laughed at how stupid she'd been. Whether she was unhappy or in her dark phase, Leo could always see right through her. But she couldn't see through him. She could, however, ask. Standing in the alley, Willow couldn't help but sigh with emotion. After so much trouble, she had finally realized what her greatest advantage was. It's a good thing I didn't know you before. That's not what you said during the Mafia game. Ah, Willow giggled, peeking out at him. Even though we're a contract couple, we can still hang out together, right? Depends on how busy the Cypress Lounge is. Leo, I can help calm your mind. That should help you find your memories. Let's hear it. We could go to a Taoist sanctuary to cultivate our spirits. All right, we'll go tomorrow. Willow secretly looped her arm through Leo's, stealing a glance at his expression. Seeing no reaction, she started talking a mile a minute. Leo, I have to apologize about the engagement party. I made the decision on my own and put pressure on you. It was a little selfish. It's fine. Everyone's selfish. But we agreed on it at the family dinner. It was my own idea. I'm sorry. Willow's expression was serious. Leo suddenly stopped walking, as if he hadn't expected her to say that. Willow continued nervously. I talk a little slowly, don't mind me. I wanted to say, I understand that your mind is a mess. Really, because it feels awful when my mind is a mess, too. I can't help you solve it, but I can be there with you. Even if we're just a contract couple, I hope our paths will cross for real one day. She looked at Leo nervously. She had come up with all of this on the spot, and it came out in fits and starts. But Leo just laughed. Open your coat. Let me see the battle armor. Okay. Willow started to pull her coat open, but Leo stopped her. I'm kidding. Before you said all that, I was honestly planning to use you and toss you aside. A little fool like you is the easiest to trick. He helped her pull her coat tight and strode out of the alley. But like you said, I hope our paths will cross for real one day. Willow pouted behind him, feeling tears welling up in her eyes. There was no saint and no inner demon. There was just a foolish girl whose life was peaceful and who wanted it to stay that way, until an unpeaceful person suddenly appeared. When you like someone, your heart is like an inaccurate scale. No matter how much weight you add, it can never be balanced. The fool tried many ways to find that balance. But an obsession you can't break is what you call a demon. They called the foolish old man a fool too, but he was the one who managed to move the mountain. Because the way to move a mountain is simple. You just swing a shovel and dig with all your might. Liking someone is actually that simple too. You just have to understand them first. Willow wasn't in a rush to talk about love anymore, because she hadn't even gotten to know the real Leo yet. She still remembered what he'd said that night she slept over at his house. Don't dream of a golden millet. Back then, she had felt separated from the bright young man by an impossible dream. But now that her perspective had changed, that dream was finally starting to take shape. Leo stood at the mouth of the alley and waved. Go on, I'll take you home. Oh, okay. Wearing the oversized Santa suit, Willow trotted along behind him. Let's go, Anna. After witnessing everything, Isabella finally chose to leave. He doesn't want to see me. Why do you have to be so stubborn when a simple apology would solve everything? Anna just didn't get it. Isabella was stubborn, but she wasn't blind to reality. I know I was wrong, Isabella said slowly, but an apology isn't just about words. Didn't you prepare that maid contract? Anna, that kind of thing is for making up after you've been forgiven. Right now, Leo has a knot in his heart about me. In the end, isn't this a mess you made yourself? Anna couldn't stop complaining. So what are you going to do now? I'll wait and see. There'll be a chance. P.S. Edits are done. The last chapter was also heavily revised. Take your time reading. You guys who were cursing CS cursed too early, my dudes. It's not my thesis. I'm out of town. Someone sent it to me to use. I was so busy today, I forgot I was an author. Totally forgot about updating. Another bright, sunny day dawned. Christmas passed quietly. Leo didn't ask about or meddle with Evelyn Shaw's plans. Weren't they saying he wasn't cooperating before? This time, he would cooperate. He wanted to see what kind of mess she could cook up. So he decided to do nothing before the concert. He would just wait quietly. But he couldn't be quiet today. He had promised Willow they'd visit the Taoist sanctuary. And for any outing, not having a car was a major inconvenience. Leo had originally planned to use the Apex Media Company van until he got a call from Winston Shung. Son-in-law, what's taking you so long? Just trying to find a car. Call me Dad just once, and I'll give you a present, Winston said, his familiar tone coming through the phone. Dad, that was too easy. There's no sense of accomplishment. How about you? Should I call you Grandpa then? Leo shot back. Don't you dare. Winston quickly shut him down and changed the subject. Willow's been busy in the kitchen all morning, being all secretive, probably making you a special lunch. Keep your voice down. If she is, that means it's a surprise. If I find out ahead of time, her whole morning will have been for nothing. You get it. No wonder my daughter is head over heels for you. Leo put down his chopsticks, wiped his oily mouth, and hung up. He sighed, looking at the thermos in his hands. He tucked it into the bottom of his backpack and started packing other things. Perfume, breath spray, mosquito repellent, wet wipes, 2 pairs of sunglasses, a phone tripod, and a package of Twinkies. Good for staving off hunger and low blood sugar. The thermos was filled with a soup he had personally cooked that morning. He'd intended to give it to Willow for breakfast. He was just going to carry it, but now he had to hide it in his bag. These preparations weren't unusual for him. It was just habit. He prepared like this for any date. He'd never been to the Celestial Master Sanctuary, but he'd already checked the map last night. It was hard to find places to eat in the suburbs, so he had already researched lunch options and found scenic photo spots nearby. Girls, after all, if you go out and don't get pictures, it's like you never went out at all. Dr. Shaw always said Leo was someone who needed to be in control. Leo didn't deny it. It didn't sound like a compliment, but control was never something you got just by asking for it. You had to earn it with action. Leo rode a shared bike, his backpack on, and leisurely made his way to the Shung family's neighborhood. From a distance, he could see his cheap father-in-law standing by the side of the road. Next to him was a car. Son-in-law, You have a license, right? Winston Shung had shaved his head but grown a beard. It was a look. He rubbed his bald head and patted the car door. Lamborghini Urus. Didn't get the Performante. The combustion engine just feels better when you step on it. If you're buying an SUV, you're not really worried about how it feels to step on it, are you? I was gonna get you a sports car, but since you're about to be a family man, I figured you should drive something more mature. This is too much. You could sell me, and I wouldn't be worth $500,000. It's not too much. Thanks to you, your uncle here is back on his feet. Winston started counting on his fingers how well things have been going for him lately. Thanks to Leo's endorsement at the family dinner, his older brother Vincent's attitude toward him had done a complete 180. Leo didn't acknowledge the Shung family. He only acknowledged his father-in-law. Since Vincent couldn't get a foothold in the new tech industries, and the traditional industries were already carved up, he had been worried about his future. But now, with Grandpa Miller's attention, opportunities were naturally opening up. At least someone was willing to play with him now. He had completely given up on his plans to move abroad and was now focusing more on Leo. He was practically worshipping Leo's father-in-law. Leo just smiled and didn't say much. It had little to do with him personally. It was just about taking a stance. If a dog had been the Miller family heir, as long as Winston was willing to accept a dog as his son-in-law, he'd be back on his feet, too. He wouldn't accept a reward for no reason. But Leo took the keys anyway. He just returned the car after their outing. The car wasn't even registered yet. You should go register it tomorrow, Winston said. Since he was giving a gift, he definitely wanted it in his son-in-law's name. You can put it in Willow's name. What's for you is for you. Why are you being so wishy-washy? Winston scowled. We're family. It doesn't matter whose name it's in, Leo shrugged. You got a big heart saying that. Winston pulled out a cigarette and lit it, sighing a moment later. But why does it make a father's heart feel so sour? My own daughter has never even made me breakfast. Wanted to make you a meal. Forget it. I'll be content if I can just drink at your wedding sooner rather than later. As Winston spoke, he kept glancing at Leo, but he was only met with the young man's smiling face. In the end, he didn't press the issue. Willow was sitting restlessly on her bed, letting out the occasional giddy laugh. Her mother, Elaine Shung, watched her daughter's foolish grin and couldn't help but nag. Willow, a girl needs to be more reserved. Mom, you're the one who told me not to be so slow. There's a time to be slow. Her mother didn't really want to interfere, but she had met Leo a few times and heard stories about him. This young man was too smooth. She wasn't afraid of her daughter being eaten alive. They were about to be engaged. That was bound to happen eventually. She was afraid of her daughter getting her heart broken. I know you like him a lot, Mom, but you shouldn't be too forward. You hear me? I hear you, Mom. Seeing her daughter's obedient expression, Elaine nodded in relief. Her daughter had no other virtues, but she had always been obedient. Mom, should I go downstairs and wait? Otherwise the food will get cold, Willow asked, looking up. You just promised me you wouldn't be too forward. Is waiting downstairs being too forward? I was originally planning to wait at his apartment building. Elaine was speechless. She was about to say her daughter had gone mad and continue to lecture her, but then the door opened. Leo, carrying his backpack, followed Winston into the house. He secretly exchanged a look with Willow before greeting her mother. Hello, Annie. I'm here to take Willow out. No need to be so polite. You haven't had breakfast yet, have you? Leo had eaten 4 steam buns that morning, but he shook his head. Actually, no, I haven't. You young people never like to eat breakfast. It's a bad habit. Here, sit down and have something. Elaine pointed to the small lunchbox in her daughter's hands, a hint of resentment in her voice. Willow was up very early, bustling about with who knows what. Willow's face turned bright red as she handed over the lunchbox, nervously wringing her sleeves. You can cook, Leo asked, his expression one of genuine surprise. Willow nodded nervously. These ribs are so tender. You must have used a pressure cooker for a long time, right? It wasn't that long, really. When did you buy all these ingredients? I got up early this morning to get them. You worked so hard. Let me try some. It was no trouble at all. As Willow watched Leo pick up his chopsticks and start to eat, she felt like she had just secretly licked a spoonful of honey from an overturned jar. She smiled to herself by the wall. Leo thought I couldn't cook? Now you know. All that work this morning wasn't for nothing. I'm so happy. As he ate, Leo praised the meal like he was on a food show. He didn't have to look up to know what expression was on Willow's face. Why did he ask you can cook? Because the most direct emotional validation comes from seeing a positive change in someone's perception of you after you've put in effort. Why did he ask those follow-up questions? Because no one wants their hard work to go unnoticed. But often, pointing out your own hard work feels too deliberate. Willow couldn't just come out and say, I got up super early to buy groceries and stewed these ribs for hours. So Leo gave her an opening to express it. Elaine silently observed Leo's behavior from the side, quickly making her judgment. She'd had expectations for his reaction. Faced with a simple homemade lunch, if he'd been completely unresponsive or cold, she would have judged him as an ungrateful brat. If he'd been overly dramatic and moved to tears, she would have judged him as an actor. If his reaction was reasonable but still made her daughter happy, she would judge him as a master player. But that was a pejorative term, because a master player could wrap her daughter around his little finger just by talking. My daughter worked all morning, and you get away with just a few sweet words to make her happy? Without any real sincerity? Willow, you haven't eaten breakfast either, have you? Leo suddenly looked up and asked. I had a little something when I woke up. This is all for you. Willow thought he was inviting her to eat with him and quickly waved her hands. That was until Leo stood up and pulled a thermos from his backpack. Even if you've eaten, you should try some. I made it myself. Huh. Willow froze, her hands clutching the corner of the table, completely bewildered. Is that really for me? We probably woke up at the same time. I set my alarm for 6 in the morning too. Then, I'd love to have some. If you don't want it, I won't make it next time. I want it. Willow carefully took the thermos and scurried to the kitchen to get a bowl. Leo followed her, explaining the Chinese medicinal herbs in the chicken soup. Why do you put the thermos in his backpack? To let Willow fully experience the feedback loop of giving and receiving. Their relationship wasn't, strictly speaking, very familiar. They couldn't be completely open with each other face to face. So if they had exchanged gifts at the same time, Willow would have been flustered, thanking him for the soup, and would have temporarily forgotten her own efforts. The feedback that comes with anticipation is instantaneous. If you don't get that emotional feedback the moment you give a gift, the joy is greatly diminished. So the moment he learned Willow was making him a special lunch, Leo chose to play his card second. This way, Willow's own efforts wouldn't be overlooked. She could be completely happy twice. The reason Leo made chicken soup was simple. He had been touched by what Willow said yesterday. Besides her confession-like statement, I didn't know you before, I only love the you that exists now, there was something else that had resonated with him. She had said, it was wrong of me to selfishly insist on the engagement party. Before that, Leo had even felt a certain resistance toward Willow. The reason was simple, the unauthorized engagement. I explained to you over and over again. My private life is a mess. Our engagement is a business partnership. I have my reasons for being your fiancé. You have yours for being my fiancé. Neither of us has pure motives. I laid my heart bare for you. And yet, because you like me, you went behind my back to the old man to arrange the engagement. You didn't even tell me. Put yourself in her shoes. What if Willow had made it clear that their relationship was purely a partnership, but Leo, overwhelmed by his feelings, had gone behind her back to her father to demand an engagement? Is being in love an excuse to be selfish? If so, couldn't he just force himself on her and say, don't blame me, I just like you too much? And as for being considerate of a young girl's sensitive emotions, Leo genuinely felt he had been more than considerate. If it weren't for her feelings, he would have made a huge fuss about the engagement long ago. They each had their own goals. They had to be responsible for their own profits and losses. They were bound together by interests. Their entire relationship was a reflection of Leo's way of doing things. He felt he had said and done more than enough. I didn't beg you. I didn't force you. In a relationship built on mutual benefit, do I also have to control myself and act like a saint? Leo felt he might as well just sew his mouth shut. When facing Willow, he shouldn't say a word, shouldn't ask what he wasn't supposed to. The moment she got a little too close, he should just say, my lady, please keep your distance. One more step, and I might just do a dramatic pratfall. But what Willow said in that alley had opened up a new path. She genuinely wanted to change. She apologized for her selfish actions, so Leo was also willing to change. Forget about who was right or wrong. They were both at fault. Both wanted the benefits that came with the title of fiancé and fiancée. So Leo was willing to temporarily set aside the contract couple title and interact with her as a boy and a girl getting to know each other. And that's where the chicken soup came from. Leo didn't watch Willow drink the soup. Instead, he ladled a bowl for Elaine Shung. Auntie, you should try some too. Thank you, Leo. Elaine was a bit dazed. This young man was full of surprises. How is it that he also got up early to cook? That kind of sincerity. Even Winston Shung was stunned. He truly hadn't expected Leo to pull out this treasure. No wonder he had refused to put his backpack in a car earlier. He was carrying a strategic weapon. Son-in-law, let me have a bowl to... Winston smacked his lips, wanting a taste. Didn't bring enough for you. Next time for sure. But I did bring other gifts. Although it wasn't a formal visit, The gift he brought was a little strange. My mom said Willow liked these dried chili peppers when she visited our place last time, so she had me bring some over. Leo had chosen the chili peppers for a reason. On an informal occasion like this, bringing a gift that could be measured in money was inappropriate. The Shung family was wealthy, after all, and they would feel obligated to return the favor. The next time Willow visited Riverbend Estates, his mother would surely stuff her with gold jewelry or something as a return gift. This kind of back-and-forth gift-giving was meaningless. Leo didn't want to start it. Your mother thinks Willow. Elaine looked up nervously. She asked when Willow was coming to visit again. Oh, that's good, that's good. Elaine patted her chest, breathing a sigh of relief. Even if "when are you coming again" was just a polite phrase, this bag of chili peppers was definitely heartfelt. If he didn't care, he could have just bought some generic gift box. For Elaine, the approval of her daughter's future mother-in-law was very important. Her attention immediately shifted from the chicken soup, and the look she gave Leo became more complex. Even this woman, who had seen her fair share of soap operas and dramatic Hong Kong dramas, had to admit it. Even if she tried to nitpick, it would be hard to find any fault. Elaine couldn't help but sigh. Willow is so lucky. Thank you, Andy. I'm the lucky one, Leo said, bowing his head in thanks. You two should get going. Just leave the bowls, I'll wash them. It was a nice day, with both sun and clouds. Perfect weather for an outing. We're just going to the suburbs. Why did you bring such a big bag? Leo asked from the driver's seat. These are all my preparations for the trip. What did you prepare? Perfume, breath spray, mosquito repellent, wet wipes, 2 pairs of sunglasses, a phone tripod, and white rabbit candy. Willow counted on her fingers, explaining each item to Leo. If you don't like the smell of sandalwood at the sanctuary, you can spray some perfume on after we leave. The phone tripod might be useful for taking pictures. Is the candy for low blood sugar? You have low blood sugar? It's a good thing I brought it then. I just have a sweet tooth. Willow unwrapped a piece of candy, glanced at it, then at Leo's face. She waited until Leo opened his mouth. Willow quickly popped the candy in, then pointed at his backpack. Is your bag full of trip supplies, too? We could just use yours then. Let's use yours. My bag only has the thermos and stuff. Oh, okay. Willow leaned back in her seat, secretly pleased with her travel preparations. She had finally regained a bit of dignity in the thoughtfulness department. She knew a big guy like him wouldn't think of so many things. Leo, what do you want for lunch? Willow turned to ask. Leo was about to pull over and show her the restaurants he had already found on his phone, all of them not far from the suburbs. But Willow beat him to it, pulling out her own phone. Let me read you the places I found. There's a Sichuan restaurant, a farmhouse-style place, a roasted leg of lamb spot. Let's skip the farmhouse. The other two are fine with me. You choose, Leo said, checking his rearview mirror, an irrepressible smile spreading across his face. So all my preparation was for nothing. But somehow he felt that was pretty great, too. The Celestial Master Sanctuary wasn't very crowded on non-holiday. Willow seemed very familiar with the place, acting as a guide as she walked ahead. There's the Hall of the Spiritual Official, the Hall of the Celestial Master, the Hall of Compassionate Navigation, the Hall of the Dipper Mother, the Hall of the Matchmaker God. Basically, whatever you want to pray for, you go to that hall. If I pray at all of them, will the gods think I'm greedy? Leo had already decided he was going to hit every single one. I don't know what I want to pray for, so I might as well pray for everything. Willow nodded earnestly. Then let's pray at all of them. After we're done, I'll take you to see the Grand Master. Your master? When I was little, my parents brought me to the temple to pray for blessings, and the Grand Master accepted me as a lay disciple. That caught Leo's attention. He made a bold guess. I know. The Grand Master saw at a glance that you were extraordinarily talented and knew you were a fated one. That's what the Grand Master said, but I don't think that was it. Why not? Because my dad donated $200,000 in tithes before he agreed to take me as his student. Leo couldn't hold back a laugh. So she was a paid one. In a courtyard of green bricks and wooden tiles in the deepest part of the sanctuary, the Grand Master sat by a well, his face a landscape of benevolent wrinkles as he watched a stream of female patrons. Grand Master was what his disciples called him. His Taoist name was Haoshur, which meant good thing, so you could call him Master Haoshur. He hadn't earned that name for nothing. A woman approached and whispered, Master Haoshur, my husband is impotent. This is a good thing. You don't have to worry about him fooling around. Master Haoshur, my heart has been restless lately. This is a good thing. A restless heart means you are dissatisfied with the present. My heart is restless because I was in a hit and run yesterday. This is a good thing. The sanctuary's security cameras are connected to the police network. Master Haoshur, I cheated on my husband while he was on a business trip. He hasn't found out, but my conscience is killing me. This is a good thing. If he found out and killed you in a fit of rage, an innocent soul would be lost from this world, wouldn't it? Master, am I the innocent one? I'm even more certain this is a good thing. It would be a waste for him to throw his life away for you. Master, I don't understand. What are you saying? This is a good thing. Leo watched Master Hauscher's consultation session with great interest before turning to Willow. It figures. Only a master of this caliber could produce a disciple like you. Don't underestimate the Grand Master. I want to take you to talk to him. After all the patrons had left, Willow slowly walked over to the well and greeted the Grand Master warmly. Grand Master, it's been a long time. Oh, Willow, have you encountered any confusion on your path of cultivation recently? The Master was still all smiles. Grand Master, I have no confusion, Willow said firmly. The Master's eyes filled with relief, as if he were looking at a piece of uncut jade. This is a good thing. I knew from your youth that you had excellent talent. Tell me about your recent insights from your practice. Grand Master, I haven't been practicing. Willow felt she really had no insights to share. Ever since she met Leo, she couldn't focus on her reading, and her meditation was a mess. The Grand Master was momentarily stunned. No confusion in her practice because she hasn't been practicing at all. He tried to persuade her. Willow, cultivation is the cultivation of the heart. This is a required course for everyone in life. Willow, cultivation is the cultivation of the heart. This is a required course for everyone in life. I know, Grandmaster. I'll go to the library to catch up later. Why have you not been practicing? The Grandmaster pressed, his brow furrowed. Willow subconsciously glanced at Leo. The Master followed her gaze, sizing up the young man, and gestured for Leo to come sit as well. Willow immediately began the introduction. Grandmaster, this is Leo, my fiancé. Hello, Grandmaster. Leo nodded politely. A look of understanding dawned on the Master's face. He nodded and asked, Are you two here for me to choose an auspicious wedding date? No, that's not it. We were hoping you could offer him some guidance. Seeking guidance was a private affair. Willow got up and excused herself, dutifully heading to the library to read. Only Master Hauscher and Leo were left by the well. Leo actually found it quite novel. He had never met a real Taoist master in person before. The Reverend Wild didn't count. Grandmaster, you and Willow are not a good match. She craves stillness. You are not still. The Master came out swinging. Leo was taken aback. He hadn't expected to be attacked the moment he opened his mouth. The Grandmaster clearly didn't have a good impression of him. Grandmaster, I actually want to be still, but it's something I can't control. This is a good thing. If you cannot be still, you two will never be together. Grandmaster, I am genuinely here to ask for your sincere guidance. This is a good thing. You want me to teach you, but I refuse. If you cannot be still, you will never be with her. Good thing, my ass. This guy was a professional contrarian. The Master's words made Leo laugh in exasperation. He said politely, Grandmaster, if you have a bad impression of me, I'll leave right now. Leo didn't want to be a bother. The man clearly didn't want to talk to him. But the Master kept at it. This is a good thing. If you leave, you will never find stillness in your heart for the rest of your life, and you will never be with her. Grandmaster, if you keep pushing me, I'm going to have to make a move. This is a good thing. When you see me without making a move, you're like a frog in a well looking up at the moon. After you make your move, you will see me as a mayfly sees the vast heavens. Leo was really starting to lose his patience. Master Hauscher was an immovable object, starting every sentence with this is a good thing. He was the world's greatest troll. The only way to deal with a troll was to out-troll them. He sat cross-legged by the well and began. Grandmaster, I have a friend. He's made a lot of mistakes. Can they all be explained as good things? This is a good thing, as long as your friend is sincerely atoning. Grandmaster, what I'm about to say is a bit crude. I'm afraid it might disrupt the serene atmosphere of the sanctuary. This is a good thing. All worldly matters are crude matters. Speak your mind. The stage was set. Leo was ready to begin. Grandmaster, at his friend's mother's funeral, he asked his friend why his mother wasn't there. This is a good thing. A high EQ move. He created the illusion that his friend's mother hadn't passed away. Grandmaster, my friend played porn on a loudspeaker outside a monastery. This is a good thing. Do you really think monks are free from worldly thoughts? They just lack the resources. Grandmaster, my friend swapped the candy at a wedding with Viagra. This is a good thing. It's better to share the joy. Grandmaster, my friend set up a blind date between a gay man and a lesbian. This is a good thing. A creative way to promote the birth rate. Grandmaster, my friend told a blind person that snot is aloe vera gel. This is a good thing. Free skincare. Grandmaster, My friend connected a cigarette to an ICU patient's breathing tube. This is a good thing. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Grandmaster, my friend told his grandma her Facebook likes could be redeemed for cash. This is a good thing. It encourages the elderly to exercise. Wait, you can't cash in Facebook likes. Grandmaster, my friend waters a person in a coma every day. This is a good thing. Your friend seems like a very responsible person. Leo finished his volley in one breath and glanced at the still smiling Master Hausher. He had to admit, the old master was impressive. A true grandmaster to be able to counter all of that. Master Hausher's expression didn't change, but he was mentally calculating whether he should unleash his ultimate technique. If this friend of Leo's truly existed, or was in fact Leo himself, then he was a world-class demon who had to be eliminated. Master, I have one last move. This time it's not my friend, it's me. This is a good thing. Let me see the caliber of a person who can be friends with such a great demon. Master, I'm planning to make out with Willow in the library later. This is a goo. Master Hausher stopped mid-sentence and looked up. Okay, now you're just a degenerate. Leo had originally come here to relax, but now his competitive spirit was fired up. He hadn't even said anything, and the master was already going on about how he couldn't be still and how they were not a good match. That was basically saying he wasn't good enough. A master troll like this could really light a fire under you. And Leo couldn't stand it. Grandmaster, what does it mean to be still of heart? Chanting scriptures, performing rituals, meditation, studying, or practicing martial arts. You won't be able to stick with any of them. If I do stick with it, will I ever hear you say this is a bad thing? This is a good thing. Master Hausher's every word was a provocation. He was set on trolling Leo today. He had a disciple lead Leo to find Willow. The morning lessons were over, but he told the disciple that Leo could move about freely, do whatever he wanted. He himself remained seated by the well, dust motes dancing in the air around him. After a moment of silence, Master Hausher muttered to himself, Willow, my dear, this is all your master can do for you. What did the Grandmaster say to you? He told me to stick with one of these. Chanting, rituals, meditation, studying, or martial arts. Chanting is the easiest. You just have to read along. Teach me. Leo was determined to see this through today. This made Willow ecstatic. She could finally be the teacher in front of Leo. Before chanting, you first neaten your clothes. After entering the hall, you light the incense and candles, adjust your mindset, and clear your thoughts. You stand while chanting, holding the scripture scroll with both hands, body upright. The speed of chanting should be slow and steady. When you read important passages, you point to the corresponding place in the book with your finger to show respect for the text. When you reach a line expressing reverence for the deities, you pause your chanting and perform a kowtow or a bow to the statue. A kowtow is when you clasp your hands left over right, raise them to your brow, and then bow, touching your head to the ground for a moment. A bow is just clasping your hands and moving them up and down. Willow led Leo into the main hall and whispered, just follow what I do. You only need to persist for an hour. Leo nodded, cleared his mind of all distractions, and carefully observed Willow's movements, ready to copy her. Willow, realizing Leo was staring at her, took a deep breath. But she couldn't get the words out. Leo's mind was clear. Hers was a mess, because this moment was a fantasy come to life. She had imagined Leo doing these things with her before, but she never thought the day would come so soon. Leo, let's switch to meditation. Why? I can't chant. All right, you teach me then. Willow led Leo to a quiet room and instructed him in a low voice, sit down and regulate your breathing. For the first few minutes of meditation, let your consciousness flow with the in and out of your breath, blocking out external distractions. Once your body and mind are calm, you begin introspection. Focus your attention on the flow of energy inside your body, the function of your organs, or your mental state. Observe if there's a warm sensation in your dantian, or if there are any fluctuations in your emotions. Leo didn't quite get the introspection part, but that didn't matter. As long as he could sit still. He sat down and began to try, his breathing becoming long and quiet. Willow also sat down to meditate, but after 3 minutes, she couldn't help but open her eyes. She couldn't be still. She kept squinting through a tiny slit to watch Leo. It didn't matter if he was handsome or not. Some people said a young Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't handsome. But if she liked you, you were handsome. Her eyes traced his profile, his throat, his chest. I can't look anymore. This is a place of cultivation. I can't have impure thoughts. I'm a person of principle. The Grandmaster is right. Cultivating the heart is a lifelong task. I must be still. The quiet room, far from the main courtyard, was simply furnished with only an altar table and the calligraphy for quiet and non-action on the wall. The swirling incense smoke was faintly visible as particles in the sunlight. The man in the black casual wear breathed evenly, sitting quietly on a cushion, searching for inner peace. He looked calm on the outside, but because his heart was not still, he was trying hard to find stillness. Willow, in her simple overcoat, was breathing erratically, her mind filled with who knows what fantasies. She had to cover her mouth from time to keep from laughing. She didn't look very still, but her heart was still. As long as she was next to Leo, she didn't need to search for stillness anymore. Wow, Leo can really persevere, Willow thought. It had been half an hour, and he hadn't made a sound. It wasn't good to disturb someone in deep meditation, so she decided to make a small noise. If Leo responded, it meant he was just toughing it out. If he didn't, she would wait a little longer. She gently scraped her shoe on the ground. He didn't fall asleep, did he? This meditation thing was certainly strange. A clear mind and a quiet atmosphere seemed simple, but they were actually very difficult to achieve. And as people get older, they find more and more external distractions, with little time to focus on themselves, let alone their internal organs and mental state. At least, Leo felt that his current state was a bit mystical. To say he'd achieved enlightenment would be an exaggeration, but he did discover many strange things. His lost memories. The word forgotten wasn't specific enough. Leo felt discontinuous was a better way to describe his memory. There were many frames in his mind, but he couldn't string them together because many key parts were missing. There were even some images he couldn't recognize before, but now, connecting them with the stories he'd heard, he could start to piece things together. Their low wall of the children's park, the psychologist's office, the silhouette in the ambulance, the small mountain village. But trying to go deeper was like staring into a bottomless black hole. This was the source of his restlessness. Something was missing. He suddenly felt an inexplicable irritation welling up inside him. He struggled to open his eyes and was met with a pair of clear ones. "Did I disturb you?" Willow said timidly. "I thought you fell asleep. I was going to cover you with something. Then your coat. There's nothing else to cover you with in here, so I had to take off my coat. I was asking what you're wearing underneath." Willow looked down, suddenly realized something, and quickly put her coat back on. "I forgot. Aren't you cold? I was wearing the overcoat." "Willow, are you trying to create some kind of contrast play in a Taoist sanctuary? You seemed to like it last time when I wore the Christmas outfit under my clothes." Willow had her own little schemes. She knew Leo liked this kind of thing. Although she still hadn't grasped the core of his saint falling from grace theory, she had summarized the pattern. The more covered up on the outside, the less on the inside, the better. She put her coat back on and was trying to explain that she was a decent person, but Leo spoke first. "Willow, the Grandmaster said we're not a good match. What do you think?" "I think the Grandmaster is wrong." "Why is he wrong?" "He just is." Leo smiled, looking directly at Willow. "Willow, I know what you mean. Listen to me." "Leo, don't be so quick to reject me. Can we just take it slow?" Willow looked dejected. She wasn't actually in a rush to talk about love. She was perfectly happy with this kind of slow, steady, getting to know each other phase. "Who said I was going to reject you? I don't want to hear any decisions. They're all meaningless." In Willow's original understanding, relationships were something that should develop naturally. A slow acceptance, without any deliberate actions. A flowing river doesn't fight for the lead. It just flows endlessly. Grand, dramatic things don't last. What she and Leo lacked most was an emotional foundation. Their real, equal relationship had only started on Christmas Eve. They'd only been getting along normally for a few days. She needed more time to get to know him, too. "What are you mumbling about?" "I was just going to say you have a great body." "I was complimenting you," Leo said. But in reality, what he had been about to say was the same as what Willow had said. He also wanted to say that taking it slow sounded great, because in that moment, he had a sudden realization of what he wanted. To live like this quietly and slowly. Wasn't that pretty great, too? Leo said a lot more to Willow. He had planned to say it all today. A heart-to-heart. Now that they had set aside the identity of fiancé and were interacting in a closer way, there were some things he could say. "Willow, my only thought right now is to try one last time to see if this amnesia thing can be solved. I support you. And then, regardless of whether it's solved or not, I have to find a way to break off our engagement." "Huh? Why?" "Because mixing business with feelings never ends well." Leo's greatest virtue was that he learned from his mistakes. The situation with Isabella was a mistake. When it came to fundamental interests, you couldn't mix in too many emotions. In his initial plan, Isabella was his money bag. If Leo had used Isabella's money to buy the company's shares, if he had truly accepted that handout, then he would have owed her. But luckily, When he first bought the shares, he used the $20 million he had scammed out of the Miller family. Even if he and Isabella had a falling out over emotional issues, Leo could still follow his own path. His relationship with Winston and Willow seemed very harmonious now. But didn't his relationship with Isabella seem harmonious at that stage, too? You can't predict the future, because anything can happen. That was why he had tried to draw a clear line with Willow from the very beginning. If Leo developed feelings for his contract fiancée, he would be planting a landmine for his future self. The old man was all smiles now, but when he wanted to control you, all he'd have to do is get a hold of Willow and the Shung family. Did you really think he was giving you a wife for free? So Willow's rash decision to get engaged was a direct step on Leo's landmine. In a relationship bound by interests, trying to talk about love comes with a price. You can't just open your mouth and say, I love you, and expect to overcome all difficulties. Talking is easy. Someone has to do the work. But luckily, Willow herself was quite obedient, and things were still within a controllable range. Otherwise, Leo wouldn't even bother to explain. But now, he had to explain a little. This is just my initial idea. It'll be very difficult to actually do. Your dad's side will be hard to convince. So I'm just telling you my thoughts. Oh, I get it. Willow didn't really understand, but she understood the key point Leo was making. He meant that breaking away from the title of fiancé and fiancée would be the true beginning of freedom for both of them. Willow felt quite happy. This was an acknowledgement of their relationship, a step up from a forced arrangement. Of course, she supported it. Leo returned to the courtyard where Master Hausher was. He pushed open the door and saw. Well, he saw a very strange sight. The Grand Master was beating a man who had just climbed out of a dry well. That person looks a little familiar. Isn't that my uncle? The Reverend Wild was perched on the edge of the well, struggling to climb out. Grandmaster, I asked you to pour water into the well. Why did you pour boiling water? This is a good thing. The hot water is to simulate the uterine environment for birth. Master Hausher observed the Reverend Wild climbing out of the well as if he were a work of art. This is a great thing. The boiling water poured down and birthed you directly. This is a false wildness. I have grasped the true meaning of being wild. Master Hausher observed the Reverend Wild climbing out of the well as if he were a work of art. This is a great thing. The boiling water poured down and birthed you directly. This is a false wildness. I have grasped the true meaning of being wild. The Reverend Wild sat panting on the edge of the well, coughed twice, and shouted, My previous pursuit of the way of the wild was all wrong. Because my existence itself comes from a mother's body, it is impossible to be completely wild. This is a good thing. Since you've figured it out yourself, there's no need to drag you to a mental hospital again. But I have found the true way of the wild. Since I cannot be completely wild, I will make the next generation completely wild. This is a good thing, but I don't quite understand this part. Explain it in detail. For example, if I were to copulate with this well, wouldn't the child born be wild? This is a good thing. Maybe you'll even give birth to a little well. Leo, listening to this explosive declaration from a distance, subconsciously covered Willow's ears. Hearing this kind of talk would curse anyone. Riverbend Airport. Riverbend Airport. Isabella Vance had just stepped out of the airport and into a business van. She had just flown back from D.C. A workaholic's work is never done. Tomorrow she had to fly to Boston. Why did you want to see me? Isabella sat in the back of the van and slowly raised the partition between the front and back seats. Without looking at the person next to her, she put on an eye mask and leaned back at her seat. CEO Vance's life is too exhausting. You should relax a little. If you're trying to sell me a membership to your clinic, you can forget it. What can your half-baked skills cure? I can cure you. If you're talking about Leo, aren't you in the same boat? But CEO Vance, what I want is different from what you want. Stop being so mysterious. Isabella had no desire to see Evelyn Shaw. The sight of her was irritating. It wasn't just bias. She equally detested any woman connected to Leo. If Evelyn hadn't messaged her every 5 minutes while she was in D.C., Isabella would have never agreed to meet. What is it? Did you know Leo and Willow are getting engaged? I also know they've been getting along quite well lately. The mention of this made Isabella even more annoyed. Did you meet me just to stick daggers in my heart? CEO Vance, you're just going to take that. Celestial Master Sanctuary. The Reverend Wild finally noticed the two figures in the corner. Nephew, uncle, you do your thing. Don't mind me. Want to come experience my way of the wild well. You enjoy it yourself. I'm not so fortunate. Leo waved his hands dismissively, though he was a little curious. For example, with a well, what kind of position would one even use? Some things were better left unthought. Thinking about such things in a place of cultivation was a bit disrespectful. Leo prepared to leave, not wanting to disturb his uncle's good time. But he had to say goodbye. "Uncle, we're leaving now." "Senior brother, we're leaving," Willow also said timidly. Leo tilted his head, his expression odd. How did they end up as senior brother and junior sister? Willow's expression was also odd. She had met the Reverend while before, but no one ever said this was Leo's uncle. "You call my uncle senior brother. What should I call you?" "In terms of seniority, I'd be in your aunt's generation." "It wouldn't be wrong for you to call me Annie," the Reverend Wild said bluntly. Another thrilling family drama. Before leaving, the Reverend Wild pulled Leo aside for a chat. "Heard you're getting engaged? 20 years have passed in a flash, and you're becoming an adult. Are you giving us a wedding gift, Uncle?" "Of course, Uncle will give you a big one." The Reverend Wild was drenched in boiling water, his hair and beard still steaming. He looked less like an uncle or a Taoist master and more like a homeless man. "Uncle, you're getting older. Have you thought about retirement? Since I couldn't achieve true wildness in life, dying in the wild would also be part of my path." Leo wasn't sure if dying in the wild was a term his uncle had invented. It probably meant finding a spot in the wilderness to wait for death when his time came. "Uncle, what do you do every day?" Leo asked. "As you can see, I seek my way. But what's the point? You have a grudge against my grandpa too, right?" Judging by the reactions of the fence-sitters in the family, his uncle still held some sway. So his deliberate disappearance had to mean something. Leo couldn't figure it out. In the end, he just waved goodbye and left. But before he left, his uncle asked him a strange question. "Why choose a Western holiday like New Year's Day for the engagement? My little junior sister here is a bit of a cultivator herself. You should have picked an auspicious date. January 1, St. New beginnings, big bangs." "Auspicious," Leo said cryptically and walked away. As he got into the driver's seat outside the sanctuary, he instinctively reached for his phone to make a call, but ultimately didn't. Back at the well, he had smelled a familiar scent. His nose was incredibly sensitive to women's perfume. Professed Marley. In the thick air of incense, a faint, fleeting scent of perfume couldn't escape Leo's nose. He didn't make the call, because even if he did, he wouldn't get the truth. "Peyton, you've been telling me one hell of a lie." In the quiet courtyard, Peyton emerged from a side room, looking anxiously in the direction Leo had left. "Don't worry, no one noticed you," the Reverend Wild said from his seat by the well. "The engagement on January 1st, was that really not your doing? That was all Leo's idea. I don't have the ability to control him," Peyton answered calmly, her palms sweating. It seems Leo isn't too interested in family struggles. But is this kid genuinely clueless, or is he just pretending? All Leo has to do is accomplish a few things, even if it's just throwing money at a project to get some results, and people will have something to boast about for him. He'll be the designated heir. The old man just wants to completely resolve the conflict between the second and third brothers before he dies. If the third brother's son becomes the heir, even if he still has hatred, out of guilt for his son, he won't let the turmoil spread to the entire family. Because once Leo becomes the heir, the third brother is destined to be unable to cause trouble. Otherwise, Leo could just turn around and say, "I never saw you when I was a kid, and now that I finally have a little bit of the family's love, you're going to stand up and try to tear it all down." So this is not only the old man's compensation to the third brother, but also a way to use the third brother's 20 years of guilt to forcibly suppress 20 years of hatred. You've already owed your son a precious 20 years for your hatred. Are you going to continue to destroy your son's bright future for the sake of that hatred? The Reverend Wild turned his head to look at the Grandmaster, hoping for a little "this is a good thing" explanation. But to his surprise, the Grandmaster was asleep, his eyes closed. The Reverend Wild tidied his damp hair and looked at Peyton with feigned confusion. "So, Peyton, tell me, why would Leo choose to get engaged on the day of the concert, thus missing it?" The entire Miller family is watching the two cousins' careers. Right now, the older cousin is on a roll, but not only is the younger cousin not contributing, he's insisting on getting engaged on that very day. Doesn't he know this will greatly affect his evaluation? Peyton's expression remained calm, but her palms were slick with sweat. "I don't know. Leo has always had his own ideas. He certainly does. And that's a good thing for him, but not for me. He doesn't want to compete. Ethan doesn't want to compete. And a smooth landing is just what the old man wants. If the old man dies in peace, I won't. I don't know what got into that kid with the last car crash. I had calculated countless scenarios, unscathed or dead. The one thing I didn't expect was that he would crash into the truck himself and somehow survive. So this time, with the concert, we can't have that happen again." The Reverend Wild took off his shoes, picked the dirt from under his nails, and held his hand under Master Hauscher's nose. Master Hauscher remained motionless, and a faint snore could even be heard. The Reverend Wild looked up at Peyton, bored. Whoever the old man wants to win, I have to make them lose. So Leo must lose. I know. Losing includes dying. Do you know that? I know. I hope you know, but you probably don't. But it doesn't matter. Because if he doesn't lose, you will. And you can choose how. The least painful way is for me to make a few calls, have some of your old partners from the cosmetics company report you for accounting fraud, and you go to prison. A step up in pain would be to tell Rick everything. Let him know how you've been a triple agent. Rick's all bark and no bite. He'd probably let you live. A step further up in pain would be for you to buy a plane ticket today to some pleasant little country, only to have Frank's guys knock on your door. Frank plays rough. So you choose. Peyton's face didn't change. But Leo won't go to the concert. It's his ex-girlfriend's concert. He's probably choosing to get engaged on that day, either because he doesn't want to be reminded of her or as a way to get back at her. That's irrelevant to me. If he doesn't lose, you will. So you figure out, can't we wait a little longer? If we wait any longer, the old man might really have a joyous funeral, and I won't know whether to laugh or cry. The Reverend Wild turned and walked away, heading toward the deepest part of the sanctuary. The moment he left, Master Hausher happened to wake from his slumber. Getting old. I can fall asleep just sitting here. Master, I'll be going then. My dear, you've come all this way. Let me offer you some guidance. Master, I thought you didn't involve yourself in worldly affairs. Peyton was a bit confused. She knew a little about Master Hausher. He always kept his distance from such matters. I only offer guidance. Peyton tightened her coat, hesitated for a moment, and then sat down at the table by the well. Master, I've done many things wrong. This is a good thing. When you realize your mistakes, it means you already know what is right. Master, I think you're right. I know what is right. So now, I have no hesitation in my heart. This is a good thing, because the way is a path, and your path is within your heart. Master, my life hasn't followed many rules. Can I really reach the other shore like this? Life is what it is. Why stick to the rules? Master Hausher smiled benevolently, indicating he wasn't finished. He closed his eyes, fiddled with his fingertips, then opened his eyes and added with great certainty, "This is a good thing." "Thank you, Master." Peyton stood up and left, walking alone out of the brick courtyard and slowly toward the hall of the matchmaker god. This hall was always associated with marriage, and indeed, that was its primary purpose. But it wasn't just for seeking love. It was also for praying for a loved one's safety. May my beloved be safe and sound, through wind and rain, heart to heart. The blue smoke swirled in the wind, a desolate figure crossing the long flight of stairs, like a candle flame flickering in a slanted breeze. A femme fatale is often associated with venom. Everything is stepping stone for her climb. But what exactly counts as climbing up? Peyton didn't know. Not until she saw the slender figure leaning against the Lamborghini at the sanctuary gate, waving at her from a distance. Cousin-in-law, here to pray for money or for love? Neither. Just looking for some peace of mind when I'm feeling down. Peyton was starting to lose her composure, a forced smile plastered on her face. Leo, hands in his pockets, sauntered over. Wrong. That's still a prayer. A prayer for what? A prayer for peace of mind, Peyton. Ever since returning from his Christmas Eve voyage, Ethan had been a prisoner in his own home, a self-imposed prison. Since that day, he had only spoken to his father for 5 minutes. His father hadn't punished him. He hadn't even said much at all, and that was the greatest punishment for Ethan. The immense pressure in his father's eyes, his heavy expression, and the occasional from his lips. These three things had formed the landscape of Ethan's childhood. He desperately wanted to talk to his father, but no one gave him the chance. Overwhelmed with guilt, he once again found himself at the clinic. Under the dim light, Ethan wept. Dr. Shaw, rebellion is useless. What did your father say? He didn't say anything. Ethan's pain intensified at the thought. Even Evelyn Shaw herself was surprised. She said, "Did the conversation time conflict with your father's work schedule? He talked to me for 5 minutes, then went to his study to look at a conch shell for an hour. Well, there seems to be a major problem with your father-son communication." Evelyn's expression was one of deep empathy, but inwardly, she was gloating. Perfect. This kind of extremely traditional communication style is perfect for my plan. Perhaps you should show a more extreme attitude to force a real conversation with your father. How do I force it? Act completely out of character. The more you can provoke his emotions, the better. I understand, Dr. Shaw. Ethan's expression wavered for a moment, but he ultimately returned home with renewed determination. Watching Ethan's retreating back, Evelyn let out a long sigh. Ethan was an indispensable part of her entire treatment plan. In reality, there were much better ways to resolve traditional father-son communication issues. creating a communication medium, seeking help from his mother. But when it came to Ethan and Leo, Evelyn was never a professional psychologist. She preferred to describe herself as a bad woman using professional skills to achieve selfish goals. This has dragged on long enough. It's time to end it. Evelyn looked calmly at the statue of Aphrodite on the wall, her fingers tracing its smooth arm. You could tell how agitated Ethan was by the speed of his car. He nearly flew off the guardrail on the winding mountain road. The showdown with his father was a moment he had dreamed of, a day he had waited for too long. Edward, I'm telling you, from today on, I'm going to be myself. I'm done being the young master. Don't you ever boss me around again. Fueled by a surge of passion, Ethan stormed into the house. He searched upstairs and downstairs, but couldn't find anyone. He stood on the staircase and started shouting, "Edward, get the hell out here." His long-delayed rebellious phase had finally arrived, and Ethan felt exhilarated. So exhilarating. "You were calling me?" Edward Miller, wearing an apron, walked out of the kitchen. In that moment, Ethan's face turned ashen. He was literally trembling, feeling as if he were about to slip and fall down the stairs. "My dad is cooking? Is an apron something you should be wearing?" "No, I can't think like that. I'm here for a showdown." "Edward, I want to talk to you." "Fine. Go to the study and get the liquor." "Huh, but you don't drink in private." "I'm having a drink today." Edward pointed to the dishes on the table, struggling to find the words to explain the atmosphere, probably trying to say something about a father-son heart-to-heart. But the words got stuck in his throat. Traditional father-son communication was a challenge not just for the son, but for the father as well. Ethan poured his father a glass of white liquor and sat down at the table in silence. Father and son ate, wordlessly picking at their food. No one raised a glass first. No one spoke first. They were silent for a good half hour. It was this strange atmosphere that made Ethan feel as if nothing had changed, because this was how it always was at home. Ethan, his heart full of unspoken words, finally couldn't take it anymore and broke the silence. "Dad, I have something to tell you today. I've kept these words inside for a long time. Don't ever force me again." Perhaps because he had mentally prepared himself, this didn't scare him into silence. Instead, it stirred his emotions. "Dad, I'm not competing anymore. I'm taking Peyton abroad to live with Mom." "You can't compete, and you can't take Peyton with you." Hearing this, Ethan's emotions flared. "Do you have to say it like that? Why can't I? Explain it to me." He was sick and tired of these conversations where only the result was announced. "Dad, if you keep talking like this, I'd rather die than ever come home again. Let's not say another word to each other." Ethan felt his attitude was extreme enough. He had definitely met Dr. Shaw's requirements. "Get angry, Edward. Get angry, so we can finally have a real father-son talk." Edward took a sip of the liquor. He didn't usually drink in private. The harsh taste made him smack his lips. "Sorry, Dad apologizes." "All right, if you're going to be so stubborn, then let's have a—" "What did you say?" "Dad apologizes." Edward motioned for Ethan to continue, but Ethan had nothing more to say. This was too abnormal. He felt as if his father had been possessed. "If you're not going to talk, then I will." Edward looked up at his son. "I was planning to talk to you today anyway. Forgive me for not learning how to be a father all these years. I know what you're thinking. I agree. Sending your mother abroad was always to prepare for you to live there one day." Edward wiped his mouth, his calm face showing no ripple of emotion. "For me to live there? Wasn't I supposed to inherit the family business?" Inheriting the business was never the goal. The goal was for me to control the situation and handle the conflict between me and your Uncle Frank in a more peaceful way. You were a necessary part of that process, so I needed you to hold that position for me to stall for time. "Then why didn't you say so, Dad? If you had, I would have definitely helped you seriously. It was my fault for not saying so earlier. But it's meaningless now. The situation is clear. Your cousin's rise is set in stone." "What?" The old man originally wanted to wait for Leo to accomplish more, to have a legitimate reason to push him forward. But now his health is failing. He can't wait anymore. He wants to see Leo take his place before he dies. Leo's just a kid. How could he have that much power? Besides, did Grandpa really say that? Remember this, Ethan. When you're involved in competition at a certain level, no one will explain the process to you. They will only announce the result. And even the result is just a vague signal. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. Edward had wanted to say these things for a long time. His strategy for raising his son was based on his own understanding, but his son was always clamoring for explanations of the process, which exhausted him. "This time, I'll explain it to you once. The old man wants Leo's media company to succeed. The process doesn't matter, because Leo's resume is too thin. Under these circumstances, for the old man to agree to hold an engagement, which could be held at any time on the same day as the concert, that itself is a signal. The urgency of time means he no longer cares about what Leo accomplishes. The most important thing is to get him engaged quickly and help him take control of the family while the old man is still around. Ethan looked up, bewildered. This meant he was already out of the game. This was a good thing. But before he could be happy, a question occurred to him. Wait, Dad, in that case, what you said about controlling the situation, that was just my own meaningless struggle. Why do you call it a struggle? Because from the moment the old man favored me and gave up on your Uncle Frank 20 years ago, it meant that one day he would also give up on me to compensate Frank. The emergence of hatred can't be predicted. The day your second grandmother died, the old man had already planned this step. It's the only way to separate hatred from the family's development. No matter who is abandoned, no matter who is compromised, the Miller family will always exist. Ethan's scalp tingled. A huge sense of powerlessness washed over him. He looked out the window at the cluster of buildings shrouded in mist, a chill climbing up his spine. He was like a drowning man grasping for a life raft. Uncle Frank is a good guy, and my cousin isn't bad either. They probably wouldn't. Ethan, you're right. But back then, I didn't want to see your uncle and cousin live so poorly either. But I was on a private jet, watching your cousin and his mother struggle to survive in poverty. I asked you if you were your grandfather, your uncle, your cousin, or any member of the Miller family, and I said, let me keep working, I won't hold a grudge about stepping down. Would you believe me? Edward's face didn't flush when he drank, but his gloomy eyes held a strange light. He smiled. It was good to talk to his son. Much better than talking to a conch shell. Ethan was speechless, but looking at his father's face, he felt a pang of sadness. Dad, you never smile? Seeing you smile now makes my heart ache. Son, the person who truly wants to win never has a smile on his face. Edward's eyes held an endless fatigue. He had been through so much. He was tired. He continued, Son, I know you don't understand why I gave Leo so much help, even gave him your fiancée. I know that even if I lose power, Frank won't touch you. But I can't see through Leo. He's smart, he's ruthless, and most importantly, he's not greedy. That gives me no leverage. All I could do was proactively give away what should have been yours. Because for a hot-blooded 20-year-old, once he has his enemy's money, status, dignity, and women, he won't see you as an enemy anymore. I made some preparations in advance, using excuses like borrowing a stud. It was all so that if the day ever came when we were at daggers drawn, he wouldn't see you as a man. That way, he might let you go and live your life. Ethan covered his head and sobbed. Edward squeezed his eyes shut, stood up unsteadily, and patted his son's shoulder. Son, I still can't understand your fetish. I can't accept it. I've wanted to tell you so many times that the more social identities a person has, the higher they climb, the less they can be themselves. But the day you went out on that boat, I actually wanted to talk to you. I wanted to tell you, whatever it is, tell me. Because before all else, I am your father. Leo and Peyton's conversations were never from the heart, because they had never opened their hearts to each other. How did you end up with my uncle? I didn't. Still being stubborn, even now. Leo really didn't understand what Peyton was being so defensive about. If you said she was after money, she had less than $1 million in her bank account. If you said she was after love, she was actively working against him. Peyton, you went behind my back and arranged an engagement party on New Year's Day just to keep me from the concert. If you tell me your plan now, I'll even cooperate with you. Isn't that enough? Leo, the best cooperation is to go get engaged obediently. That way, you'll have everything you want. By everything, do you mean an acre of good land, a plow ox, a thatched cottage, $100 million in savings, and a life facing the sea? Get engaged, be the old man's good grandson, and you can have 10 times that. Then forget it. I'd rather go to school. I can't actually be a grandson. Leo, being a grandson isn't shameful. I don't even have a dad. Where would I get a grandpa? Leo was starting to get the picture. If he just obediently got engaged, the position of family heir was his for the taking. You should go back and be a good little grandson. Honestly, hearing this news was quite a surprise for Leo. He had thought he'd have to develop for a while longer. So he asked a strange question. If I become the heir, can I send the rest of the Miller clan to prison for some re-education? Why would you think that? If I don't send them all to prison, I'll have regrets for the rest of my life. Leo wasn't kidding. He didn't care how much helplessness there was in the struggles of a wealthy family. It seemed like they all had their reasons. But murderers in a courtroom all cry their eyes out, too. Who doesn't have it tough? Go to the Cypress Lounge, grab any random server, and ask them why they're in this line of work. They could spin you 8 different versions of a tragic story about their family falling apart. The sob stories written by disgraced influencers and celebrities are all incredibly moving. Does a sad story make you worthy of forgiveness? That was all just stuff to listen to and forget. Everyone has it tough, but that's no excuse for doing wrong. Everyone has their struggles. So Leo decided not to care. He would only stand on his own position. Your love and hate have nothing to do with me. All four of you father and sons should go in for some re-education. None of you are good people. Leo even wanted to send his own father, Frank, in for re-education. You like fighting with your brother, right? Then fight over something meaningful, like who can operate a sewing machine faster or make more umbrellas. Whoever does less work doesn't get to eat for a day. See how meaningful that is. You'd be contributing to society. Leo had come back for revenge. Whoever orchestrated the car crash to kill him, that was wrong. That was a crime. They deserved to die. He didn't care why. If Ethan was just a pawn pushed to the front, then he'd just keep digging. From the very beginning, Leo had avoided taking anything from the Miller family. The company was theirs, but the money to buy the shares was also theirs, just moving it from the left hand to the right. He'd just give the company back when the time came. Leo's position was firm. But now, Peyton's sudden appearance presented him with two paths. First, continue with his steady, stable strategy, climbing higher within the Miller family, being the good grandson, and waiting for the enemy to reveal a weakness. Second, deal with the woman in front of him, Peyton, and get the whole truth. The second path was obviously simpler, but on this matter, Peyton was impossibly stubborn. Peyton, what are you hiding? What's the story between us? Just tell me, please. Leo, let's not talk about the past. Peyton was the same as ever. While others were trying every which way to tell him about the past, she kept her mouth shut. Leo tried a different approach. Then let's make it simple. Who was behind the car crash, trying to frame me? Just tell me. For this purpose, Leo even made an offer. I'll go to my Uncle Edward and call off the wedding. It's just an engagement, after all. I'll take care of you after. We can have the kid. I'll give you that, too. Peyton, standing by the car, shook her head, her gaze drifting into the distance. She said, Leo, if only you had agreed to this sooner. When I first lost my memory, you suddenly popped up asking for a kid. I definitely couldn't accept that, Leo said, scratching his head. I'm talking about even earlier. Peyton pulled a pack of slim cigarettes from her pocket. Just as she was about to light one, Leo snatched it away. Look at you, getting all tough. You smoke now. Leo, can you promise that this time, you'll believe everything I say? Just say it. I'll believe you. The car crash. I was the main culprit. Peyton stated it calmly. Before you lost your memory, I found you in your daze and told you about a plan to stage a car crash involving you. Your first reaction was to ask if there was a chance to fight back. I said yes. That's why I called you, and you showed up on that road right on time. But the car crash plan was my idea from the beginning. Even telling you about the plan was part of the original plan, because I knew you wouldn't run from a sudden accident. You try to fight back. That was much simpler than me having to come up with an excuse to lure you there. Peyton's face was still bright, with no tears or sadness, only an extreme sense of release. But Leo shook his head. Wrong. Full of holes. And it doesn't explain why I would crash into the truck myself. That's all I want to say. Believe it or not. Telling a lie with so many holes is not your style. Only lies are flawless. Peyton turned her head to look at Leo. Then she walked over to the passenger side and knocked on the window, greeting Willow warmly. Willow, I can't make it to your engagement party, but I bought you guys a gift. It's okay, Peyton. Leo's not going either, anyway. Why? He just doesn't want to go. Willow was quick-witted. The matter of recovering his memory was Leo's private business. She wasn't going to tell an outsider like her cousin-in-law. Peyton froze, stunned at the window, for a long moment. Then she suddenly said, Willow, Leo's not going to the engagement party. Why do you look so happy about it? Because Leo said the title of fiancé and fiancé is just a name. We shouldn't care too much about it. So you and Leo are just going to be friends. I don't know, but I think it's nice to get along like this, peacefully. Why do we have to chase after a title? Willow didn't understand all the complications. She just knew that their current state was very comfortable. As long as they could continue on this peaceful path, she'd be willing to wear a bandeau under her overcoat every day. Her words made Peyton laugh. She shook her head at the naive girl, then turned and gestured for Leo to move away. She and Willow needed to have a little woman-to-woman chat. Willow, you're so naively cute. Huh, a peaceful life is good, but right now, you're in a competition. Willow shook her head. She didn't understand. All she knew was that peace and quiet were the best. Thinking about all this was less productive than going online to pick out more bandeau tops. Unbeknownst to her, Willow had been molded into a strange and wonderful shape by a certain someone. Peyton explained patiently, go ask those people working 9 to 5 caught in the rat race. Who doesn't want a peaceful, good life? But when you're in a competitive environment, if you want something that others can't have, you have to take the initiative. I get that. But Peyton, I also think Leo, and I shouldn't be limited by a title like fiancé and fiancé. Then your peaceful life is most likely over. Peyton came to a conclusion and then explained, do you think if Leo gets his memory back one day, he'll still have time to live a peaceful life with you? Why wouldn't he? He has conflicts with all those people from his past. You only have conflicts when there's an emotional foundation. Besides, do you know what the others are doing? I don't know what strange things DR. Shaw is up to, but she definitely won't be quiet. Summer Lynn has been asking me on the side about her media contract, asking if she can avoid long-term commitments because she's saving up money to break her contract and retire, to go back and take care of her and Leo's mother. The day the Mafia game ended, I drove a drunk Isabella Vance home. The whole way, she was mumbling I'm sorry and I was wrong, and she even came up with that maid contract. She's just waiting for a legitimate opportunity to bow her head and apologize. I don't know that Skylar girl well, but think about it. While everyone else is trying to rack up points with Leo, while he has amnesia, she's off traveling the world. But she's so confident. I don't know where that confidence comes from. I can only attribute it to the memories he's lost. Perhaps she's certain that in the near future, they will definitely be together. Peyton said a lot in one breath, but she didn't stop there. She continued with a soul-crushing question. Willow, if you take off the title of fiancé, what do you think makes you any different from stranger? I can slowly build a relationship with Leo. Willow suddenly stopped, because she had realized a problem. It seemed like she couldn't afford to be slow anymore. Leo wasn't going to the engagement party precisely, so he could find a chance to get his memory back. And the engagement party was only 3 days away. Leo watched his cousin's fiancée walk away, pulling out one of the slim cigarettes he'd swiped from Peyton. He didn't light it. He'd forgotten to grab a lighter. His rule of thumb was simple. When you can't verify a piece of information, assume it's false. It kept his thinking clear. And for him, the solution to this whole mess was even simpler. Just make sure the bad guys don't get what they want. If Peyton was scheming to get him to the engagement party, all he had to do was not go. He'd never figure it out by guessing anyway. The truth would come out when it was meant to. He shook his head, refusing to let the sudden complication ruin his mood. He'd promised Willow a date, and he intended to deliver. Come on, he said. Let's get some lunch. Thai or maybe. Leo, Willow interrupted softly. Let's go find Skylar and eat with her. We can, but why the sudden change to a 3-person date? Leo was easy either way, but he was curious about the shift in plans. Last time Skylar came to see me, I said some things that weren't very nice. I want to make it up to her. Got it. Best friend spat? Not really a spat. She wanted to come with me to your family's place, and I told her it wasn't a good idea. That's normal. Not really something to get mad over. And then she sent me messages all night, and I didn't answer a single one. Fine, Leo sighed. My treat. He didn't think much of it, just started the car and headed toward downtown Riverbend. He was, however, a little curious about what Peyton had said to her. So, what kind of poison did that villainous pour in your ear? She was just giving me some advice from someone who's been there. You know, stuff to watch out for with the engagement, Willow said, pursing her lips. She wasn't a puppet who believed everything she was told. She'd sensed a strong manipulative streak in Peyton's words. Whether it was Isabella or Summer Lynn, Willow didn't know them well enough. But she was starting to understand Leo's patterns. You couldn't cross his clearly stated boundaries, especially not after he'd repeated them. If you had the audacity to plan an engagement party behind his back, he'd have the audacity to just not show up. So, the seemingly terrifying Isabella Vance wasn't much of an enemy in Willow's eyes. But Willow knew Skylar Reed. Memories flickered through her mind. Skylar wasn't stupid, nor was she delusional. What gave her the confidence to travel the world, to give up her chance to stay, yet remain so sure of herself? The look on Skylar's face back at Apex Media was still burned into her memory. I'm going to be the boss's wife someday, you know. It was because she knew her best friend so well that this seemingly random declaration now sent a shiver of fear down her spine. She hadn't made a decision yet. She wanted to watch, to see, from the perspective of a true competitor, just how Leo and Skylar really interacted, and to understand where that unshakable confidence came from. Outside a popular Thai restaurant, Skylar stood with her arms crossed, glaring at the Lamborghini as it pulled up. She fixed a death stare on the man who emerged from the driver's seat. Leo glanced at her, walked over, and gave her a sharp flick on the forehead. You look like a bulldog with that expression. Don't touch me. I am the Valkyrie of vengeance. All who anger me shall be consumed by my endless wrath, their blood staining my hands. Your Majesty, I haven't done anything to you. What vengeance are you even talking about? Villains die because they talk too much. You don't even know your crime before you die, which proves your guilt. Skylar put her hands on her hips, trying to puff out her little yellow winter coat to create the illusion of a more formidable physique. Leo Miller, do you know your crime? Who dares make an accusation in my court? Leo used one long arm to press against Skylar's forehead. The Valkyrie of vengeance thrashed and flailed, but couldn't get past his guard. She switched tactics from violent revenge to tragic self-pity. Oh, my life is so bitter. Betrayed by my best friend, cast aside into the cold palace by a heartless man, I can only wash my face with tears all day long. Use your words. Where's Willow? I demand my revenge. Willow had been watching this whole absurd routine from the sidelines. She'd seen this kind of thing before, but watching the same scene at a different time stirred up completely different feelings. Before, she just thought they were noisy and wished they'd go find a corner to make out in like other couples, instead of bothering everyone. Now, she had to watch them carefully, ready to step in and put a stop to the insanity. What if they actually started kissing? A sour feeling spread through her chest. Skylar had now climbed onto Leo's back and was trying to apply a chokehold to make him admit defeat. Willow watched it all unfold, and finally, she couldn't take it anymore. Skylar, apologize, but can you please get off of Leo first? Willow said, looking up. Skylar, who was straining so hard her neck was turning red, suddenly froze. Who was that? Am I hearing things? Did Willow just tell me to get off Leo? A sense of dread washed over her. She scrambled down from his back and rushed over to Willow. Willow, I didn't hear you right. Are you jealous? No, it's just making a scene on the street like this isn't a good look. There's something off about you, girl. Skylar put a hand to her chin, squinting as she circled her best friend. Last time, when you said it wasn't convenient, I knew something was up. Don't tell me you've been secretly. Willow's heart went cold. That was exactly it. She felt guilty because she was secretly trying to win points behind her best friend's back. The moral guilt made it hard to even look Skylar in the eye. But Skylar's gaze was sharp as she studied Willow's expression, even waving Leo over. Holmes, I believe Watson has something she's hiding from me. That's an easy one to solve. It stems from the possessiveness of a fiancé, Leo said, having exchanged a quick glance with Willow before speaking. He was confused, too. This was the same Willow who was bold enough to embrace a villain arc, yet she couldn't even have an honest conversation with her best friend. Normally, when a woman had a crush on a guy, the guy was the last to know, because she'd already workshopped it to death with her best friend. How had they gotten to this point without Skylar knowing anything? But Leo couldn't see Willow's eyes because she was looking at the ground. To be honest, he had to admire her nerve. You have a guilty conscience, and you walk right into the lion's den? Skylar nodded in agreement with Leo's assessment. You found it, Holmes. It seems Willow is getting a little too into her role. I have to cure her. And how will you do that? How about you and I kiss? A little desensitization therapy. Get lost. Let's go inside and eat. Skylar was the first to bounce into the restaurant. But Willow's heart was a tangled mess. When it came to love, she was just a 20-year-old girl. And whenever Leo and Skylar stood together, it was like they automatically created their own encrypted channel of communication. No one else could get in. That inexplicable chemistry sent a pang of pain through her. Everyone knew Willow was a fan of tragic romance stories. Seeing this, she suddenly felt like this was what she deserved. A twisted sense of guilt bloomed in her heart. In that moment, she had no idea what to do next, until Leo was standing in front of her, wiping a tear from the corner of her eye. He crouched down to meet her gaze and smiled for no reason. Willow, it's okay. No one can handle every relationship perfectly. What should I do? Option 1, retreat, Leo said, shaking his head. Like I've said before, every man fantasizes about a harem, but I hate trouble, and trouble comes from messy relationships like these. I saw this day coming, which is why I told you to treat the engagement as a business partnership. You still have an exit. Option 2, face it. Tell her everything you're truly feeling. Leo said patiently, his voice low. Don't think of love as just some beautiful prize, because when you get it, you inevitably have to lose other things. The new demands your partner makes, the friend gatherings you miss because you're with them, the computer you don't have time to turn on, the holidays you don't care about, but they do. Pieces of yourself will slowly fade away, but that's a necessary part of love. So, think carefully about the gains and losses, because love has never been as simple as just saying the words. Leo waited patiently on the sidewalk. A relationship wasn't about physical breakthroughs. It was built in the small moments, in conversations like this. He knew Willow hadn't thought most of this through, just like when she'd impulsively demanded an engagement. People who'd never been in love were often like that their first time around. It was normal. But from Leo's perspective, it explained why he'd been so casual when he said he wouldn't go to the engagement party. He hadn't given much thought to Willow's feelings because she hadn't considered what a sudden engagement would do to him. She could demand his cooperation because he had no choice but to cooperate. But to also expect him to manage her emotions? That was asking a bit much. When someone makes a decision without considering your feelings, you shouldn't have to overthink theirs. It wasn't revenge. It was the prerequisite for a love built on respect. Because if it happens once, it will happen again. That's just how people are. The engagement was just like this situation now with Skylar. Willow clearly hadn't thought it through before making a rash decision. She hadn't considered Skylar's feelings, nor had she considered how Leo was supposed to navigate it. Perhaps Willow would back down again and realize this later. But honestly, Leo didn't have the energy to nurture a flower to its bloom. It was exhausting. One summer Lynn had nearly drained him dry. So, Leo threw the choice back to Willow. Let's see if she would make another impulsive decision, or if she would finally start considering others. Leo, I want to face it, Willow said, finally summoning the courage to look up. Leo wasn't surprised. This wasn't the first time she'd done something like this. Learning was a process. He didn't ask any more questions, just sighed and turned to walk into the restaurant. Skylar, already seated by the window, was waving at them to hurry up. Leo, wait. I want to ask your opinion. Yeah? What is it? Leo smiled and walked backward toward her. Will this make things difficult for you? Willow asked, looking up. Yes and no. It's not difficult now that you've asked. But it would have been very difficult for you if you hadn't, Leo said, his words a bit of a riddle. But he said it with a smile, and even asked one more question. Have you thought about what you're going to say? I'll just tell her that I really like you. If Skylar gets mad, I'll apologize. If it ends our friendship, there's nothing I can do. But I feel guilty toward her, too. After all, I'm the one who came later. As long as you've thought it through. Leo's expression was rich with amusement. He asked, did it not occur to you to ask for my opinion before this? I was avoiding it, actually, Willow said, looking up nervously. I was afraid you wouldn't choose me. The thoughts of a young girl in love were always so playful and endearing. You did well this time, Leo said. Next time, ask me first. Because the outcome might be worlds apart from what you imagine. Eating is a channel for face-to-face communication, which gives it many meanings. It could be a date, a business meeting, a family reunion, or a way for enemies to bury the hatchet. You can talk while you eat. But when Skylar ate, she just ate. Her mouth was in constant motion. To maintain peak efficiency and avoid any downtime in her chewing, her chopsticks would hover by her lips, ready to deliver the next mouthful. Watching her was like witnessing a primal instinct, all reason and thought abandoned in favor of pure, raw hunger. Leo didn't dare let her plate go empty. He was afraid that in the next second, she'd pour chili sauce on the table and take a bite out of the corner. Does she always eat like this? Leo asked, stunned, turning to look at Willow. Willow nodded. You didn't know that. I might have once. Leo was genuinely taken aback, so much so that a competitive instinct flared within him. He had to start eating too. After all, when you're facing a wild animal, if you don't move your chopsticks, all you'll be left with is a question. Hey, where's my rice? Order another one. This bowl is mine, Skylar said, holding Leo's rice bowl with a sheepish grin. Slow down and drink some water. I'm afraid you'll choke to death. Stingy Leo won't even give me his rice. Skylar finally wiped her glistening lips, temporarily pausing her feeding frenzy. You just picked a bad time to treat me. I just came from the gym. I feel like I could eat a whole cow. How full are you now? 3/10. You're kidding. 2 bowls of rice, and you're only 3/10 full? You want to eat 4 more bowls and show me what 9/10 full looks like? Hee, I eat 3 meals a day. If I'm full from this one, that's 1/3, right? Skylar leaned back in her chair without a care for her image, placing a hand on her stomach under her shirt and rubbing it in a clockwise circle. Willow, fess up. Now. I'm sorry, Skylar. Actually, Willow began nervously, but her confession was cut short before it could even get started. I forgive you. Just give me a shoulder rub later and buy me a cheap milkshake. Skylar, don't be so quick to forgive me. I haven't finished talking. I already forgave you. What's the big deal? Fine, just a shoulder rub then. Skylar, Leo couldn't listen to this anymore and finally spoke up. The people sitting in front of you right now are not an engaged couple from an arranged marriage. The engagement is off. Skylar immediately switched in a gossip-monger mode. Skylar, I want to date him, Willow finally said. After the words were out, there was a sense of courage, of release, and then a sharp shriek from Skylar. What? Skylar's eyes widened like saucers. She stared at her best friend in disbelief. Willow, I must have misheard you. How could you like Leo? Skylar, I'm sorry. I've been holding this in for a long time. Willow had braced herself for anything. Let the storm rage. Skylar shot up from her chair, leaned across the table, and got right in Willow's face, her eyes still wide. Then, her anger suddenly melted into a smile. I guessed it. I won the bet. Skylar let out a silly giggle, which stunned even Leo. Who did you make a bet with? The moment I found out she was your fiancée, I knew this day would come. So, I made a bet with myself. If I won, I'd reward myself with a new snowboard. If I lost, I'd punish myself by having to buy a new ski jacket. Willow was a bit stunned. Even for a best friend, she didn't quite understand what I knew it all along meant. Skylar explained. What's that saying? Anyway, that's just how Willow is. Back in the dorm, if I playfully patted her but a couple of times, she'd complain I was being too rowdy, then just stick her but out for me to keep hitting it until I got tired and stopped. You mean she's submissive? Exactly. Willow was speechless. She had prepared for every possible reaction except this one. Why did Skylar seem happy? She asked tentatively. Skylar, you're not mad? I'm a little mad that my best friend kept a secret from me. Your punishment is to come to yoga with me. If that was all, then it was more than okay. Skylar, I promise I'll never hide anything from you again. Willow pledged her loyalty, then continued probing. So, you approve. Why do I need to approve of you dating someone? Isn't it enough for the two of you to agree? Skylar tilted her head in confusion, then had a sudden realization. Willow, you don't think my approval means you two are boyfriend and girlfriend, do you? That's something even Leo's mom can't decide. You're overestimating my influence. Willow quickly shook her head. That's not what I meant. I was afraid you'd think I was stealing your boyfriend. Leo isn't my boyfriend, and he isn't your boyfriend. So how can there be any stealing? Skylar gave Willow a reassuring look and explained. Willow, the surprise you gave me this time isn't even as big as when you announced the engagement. Why? Willow truly didn't understand. Because the title of fiancé sounded a bit intimidating. It made me keep having nightmares about you two getting married, standing at the altar saying I do. Skylar popped a bayberry into her mouth, waiting until she'd swallowed it before continuing in a low voice. Now that you don't even see yourself as his fiancé anymore, I actually feel a bit more at ease. Why is that? Willow was even more confused. Because the stage you're at now, I reached it a long time ago. Skylar's words were all true, but they stung a little. But I know that love is like a game's loading bar. Sometimes it takes forever to get to 100%, and sometimes it hits 100% in a second. So all I can say is good luck. Skylar crossed her legs, craving an ice cream bar. She was about to challenge Leo to a game of rock, paper, scissors to see who had to go buy it. But then, as if she remembered something, she leaned toward Willow. Willow, since you're not his fiancé and you're not dating, we're all just good friends, right? So, you won't get all sullen and mad if I mess around with Leo, will you? How could she not get sullen and mad? Willow felt like she was on the verge of tears. It was only now that she realized that every single one of them, Skylar, Summerlin, Isabella, Evelyn, had made it this far and could keep fighting because they all had hearts of steel. Right now, even just watching Skylar and Leo laugh and joke in front of her was making her uncomfortable. If she had to play a game of Mafia with this mindset, she'd probably burst into tears on the spot. But Willow herself didn't know what to say. The relationships were just too twisted. She was the one who had backstabbed her best friend first, but after she confessed, her friend didn't say, "But I was here first." Instead, she just asked, "Are we still good friends?" Willow's expression was unsteady. She stood there, stunned, not knowing what to say. Leo felt a pang of sympathy watching her. He was starting to think he was some kind of cosmic anomaly. Anyone who gets close to Leo Miller will have their relationships automatically become twisted. All right, that's enough. Willow and I are not friends right now. We're in the ambiguous stage. So, once you're done eating, you can go. I don't have time to play with you, Leo said, stating a simple fact. The girl wore a tube top for him. To call them just friends would be lying to himself. If he wasn't going to accept her advances, then whatever. But since he had chosen to accept them, he had to make his position clear. Hearing this, Willow's confused heart finally settled. But Skylar's heart was anything but settled. The 100 things Willow had just said didn't have a fraction of the impact of that one sentence from Leo. Ambiguous. Does ambiguous mean kissing, hugging, holding each other? It's just the normal interaction between a man and a woman. Being friends and being in the ambiguous stage are obviously different, right? Leo saw nothing wrong with his logic. There's always an ambiguous phase in a relationship. Otherwise, where would the term more than friends, less than lovers come from? Even if two people like each other, they don't just jump straight into dating, do they? He and Skylar were just friends now. He and Willow were in the ambiguous stage. There was a fundamental difference. If Skylar suddenly opened her coat to reveal a Christmas outfit, he'd assume she was playing some kind of prank. But if Willow did it, he would definitely take the time to appreciate it. Because that was a way for two people in the ambiguous stage to deepen their connection. Different relationships have different goals. Anyone else could be confused about it, but Leo himself had to be clear. "Leo, what you're doing is wrong," Skylar shouted, her cheeks puffed out. "Now you're telling me what to do." Leo shot back. "What you're doing isn't fair to Willow. She can decide for herself whether it's fair or not. Who made you the judge?" Leo took a sip of tea. He hadn't wanted to say much, preferring to let Willow handle it herself, as it represented her own choice. But Willow's combat power was clearly too low for her to resolve this. It was up to him. "Your relationship as best friends has nothing to do with me. But today, I am out on a date with Willow. It's precisely because we're best friends that I'm saying this. The decision you're making now isn't fair to Willow," Skylar said, gearing up for battle. "Why don't you wait until you get your memory back to make a decision? If I never get my memory back, am I supposed to just not live the rest of my life? But can you really let go of the past completely? A lifetime of not being curious, of not trying to find a solution? I can't. But I'll try if I have the chance, and if not, then so be it. Since you can't say you won't be curious, can we assume that the probability of you recovering your memory and not recovering it is 50 to 50? Yes. And if you happen to fall into that 50% probability of recovering your memory, then I'm afraid Willow will have to suffer the pain of a breakup." Leo was talking to Skylar as a friend. She had always been true to her own pursuits while maintaining an objective point of view, which made conversations with her comfortable. That was why, even though they'd had very little interaction since his amnesia, he still maintained this friendship. And it was because of this that Leo was curious. What was making Skylar say something like this? She definitely wasn't trying to create panic just to sabotage his and Willow's so-called ambiguous relationship. If she wanted to cause trouble, she wouldn't use such a method. Why? Leo was confused. "Because the day you get your memory back," Skylar said with complete candor, "is the day I stand before you again. You're standing in front of me right now. We're not whole right now. A Skylar who doesn't take risks isn't a complete Skylar, and a Leo who has lost his memory isn't a complete Leo. Okay, and then we'll be together," Skylar stated with absolute certainty. "Who gave you that confidence?" Leo said, shattering her conviction with a single question. "The past did. Tell me about it. Let me be the judge." Leo was genuinely curious now. Skylar didn't seem like she was lying. "There's no point in telling you why you have amnesia. If you ever do get your memory back, you'll understand," Skylar said, looking like a master strategist. "If you're so confident that we'll get together once I recover my memory, then why did you hide from me when I was discharged from the hospital?" "Because aside from being able to be with me, getting your memory back isn't necessarily a good thing for you," Skylar said, seizing control of the conversation. "The USB drive incident made me realize that a person suffering from an illness wants nothing more than to find their complete self. Others can't empathize with that. So, after you lost your memory, I rarely appeared before you. We're both pursuing our own goals, and one day we'll meet again. Whether it's Isabella, Evelyn, or anyone else, I won't interfere in their lives. That includes Willow. I won't stop her, even if I have to tell her that the day Leo gets his memory back, you might lose him. Because the process of pursuit is the most beautiful part. But I have to tell you, Leo, be very careful before you make any decisions." Skylar shook her head, her platinum blonde hair scattering freely over her shoulders. It had been 2 months since she dyed it, but the color was still perfect, a sign she was regularly touching up her roots. She pulled Willow closer and said softly, "Willow, as your best friend, I sincerely hope that we can both be happy. But I feel like my simple life right now is very happy," Willow replied innocently. "Then you'd better pray that Leo stays this way forever." Leo shot her a look. "If you're not going to say anything concrete, then stop spewing nonsense here. I'm a peerless demoness. Little Leo, would you be willing to be my boy toy?" Skylar reverted to her playful state, her hand pinching the back of Leo's neck. "And I'm no righteous hero. This Reverend specializes in capturing little demonesses for dual cultivation. Reverend, be gentle with me. Get lost." Before it got dark, Skylar left on her own in a cab. Sitting in the passenger seat, Willow was clearly downcast. Leo had no choice but to try and cheer her up. "Don't believe their nonsense. I've heard enough of their stories to know the drill. They all talk a big game, but in reality, it's all just a lot of hot air." Leo didn't believe any of that crap. So what if he regained his memory this very second? The feelings he'd had during his amnesia would still exist. So even if that happened, his heart would naturally guide him. But Willow clearly had her own considerations. Because she knew Skylar. Her best friend wouldn't say something so dire just to scare her. One was wild and crazy, the other quiet and calm. How did two people with such different personalities become best friends? It was because they believed the other's fundamental character was good. Since Skylar had said with such certainty that amnesia meant heartbreak, Willow had to take it seriously. And in that moment, Peyton's words took on a new, ominous meaning. Because what Peyton had said seemed to be right. Leo, will you ignore me after you get your memory back? Willow had learned to ask Leo for his thoughts. It's not like I'd be a different person. What are you thinking? Leo tilted his head and said teasingly, it's just a missing piece of memory. Just a missing piece of memory? The more Willow thought about it, the worse she felt. But that represents their bond with you. If the bond was really that deep, I would have already dated one of them. Why would I not date any of them? Leo didn't take it to heart, but he could see from Willow's profile that something was wrong. Willow, you don't need to put my past on a pedestal. A so-called bond is just a series of experiences people share. Look back at the days we've known each other. Aren't we creating a bond, too? Willow's eyes lit up. She thought Leo was right. I'm not lacking. I'm creating a bond, too, and I still have a lot of time. I can't be hasty. Willow finally understood why her master had said that cultivating one's heart in the secular world was so difficult, because unexpected things always appeared before you. She began to clear her mind of all distractions, trying to suppress all her inner demons. But she couldn't. So she turned her gaze to Leo and began to recall his words. The attitude Leo had shown seemed very clear. This thought was all it took. She clutched her seatbelt and couldn't stop herself from smiling. Just now, in front of Skylar, Leo had admitted they were in an ambiguous relationship. He had stood firmly on her side. I'm so happy. I'll reward myself by buying another tube top. The only thing that can stop a girl in love from overthinking is the attitude of her other half. The plan to fight fire with fire was a success. She would use the big demon, Leo, to suppress the small demons in her heart. We still have a lot of time to build a bond. There are many more days like this to come. The Lamborghini had temporary plates, so it couldn't get into the underground garage. Leo had to call Winston. Fortunately, Win's word was law with the property management. As the car slowly descended into the dark garage, Willow could finally let herself smile like a fool. Leo found a random parking spot and squeezed the car in, writing Win's number on a piece of paper for the windshield. This is Win's car, not my car. From the driver's seat, Leo glanced at Willow, who had turned her head away. Did you have fun today? I did, Willow said, turning her head back. She asked cautiously, can we go on a date tomorrow, too? I'm a little busy tomorrow. Willow was a little unhappy to hear the rejection, but what really bothered her was that he only said he was busy without explaining why, until Leo held his phone in front of her. Silas's old friends are having a get-together, and I'm in charge of organizing it. So in the morning, I have to go to the farm, and in the afternoon, I have to pick up my mom's physical exam results and find a doctor to go over them. I also have to find time to train the new server at the lounge. Is Silas the owner of the lounge? Yes. Is he good to you? Better than my own dad. Someone saves your life, teaches you a skill, helps you make money, and treats you as the heir to his life's work. That's more than many biological fathers do. It was a done deal that Leo would take over the lounge. It was the place where he had changed his fate, his home base. Doing more now would prevent him from being overwhelmed when Silas retired. Although Silas was an old businessman who never made a losing deal, Leo still respected him from the bottom of his heart. He was the true benefactor in his life so far. Willow nodded. Even though she didn't understand all of it, she was happy that Leo was sharing these important people in his life with her. I've never really heard you mention it before. Silas must be very mysterious, right? He is. He stays on the second floor all day and rarely goes out. Have you told other girls about Silas? Not really. Why would I talk about a grumpy old man? Willow was even happier. Am I the only one who knows about Silas? Not exactly. Silas personally sold me to Isabella Vance. Hemi entertained the big client Summer Lynn, took Skylar Reed's money to give me shares. Even my cousin's fiancé is a major client of the lounge. Huh. Willow was truly stunned now. In her current understanding of Leo's life, there were only a few key people. She knew his mom was close with Isabella, and Skylar had been to their house for dinner. She didn't know where she ranked. Right, and there was Leo's dad. This time, she phrased the question differently. Which girl does Uncle Rick like the most? That's a funny question. It's obviously you, Leo said, busy replying to messages from the lounge. The question made him laugh. She was the only one who could ask something like that. If I said anyone else, you wouldn't be happy either. Besides, Leo truly couldn't answer. His dad was a firm believer in the my son deserves the best camp and called every girl he saw his daughter-in-law. But Willow had her answer. Uncle Rick has met them all. A bitter feeling rose in Willow's heart. This change in mentality came from the change in their relationship. Before, When they weren't seriously trying to be together, Willow felt it was enough just to be in the game. But now that they were, she wanted more. No one wants to lose. This anxiety caused the inner demon from before to reappear. She was worried, but Leo saw her worry. He put down his phone and said very seriously, "Willow, there are no shortcuts in love. It's about getting to know each other through constant interaction. My past is laid bare before you. If you can accept it, then accept it. If you can't, I understand. I'm not accepting it. I just don't feel secure." "Fine. You want security? How about I take you on a tour and show you off to everyone?" Willow seriously considered this. It was indeed a way to give her a sense of security. But she shook her head and refused. The first person she thought of was Dr. Shaw. Even if Leo solemnly announced their relationship, would it really mean anything in front of Evelyn? Forget it. Just go home and think about it, Leo said, taking a deep breath and preparing to get out of the car. There was no right or wrong in this matter. He could understand any reaction. Most relationships stemmed from a moment of impulse, which was why most of them didn't last long. That was the point of getting to know each other properly before falling in love. Willow had always harbored a fear of Leo's past. This fear outweighed her belief in Leo himself. Leo had warned her back when they were fishing. He was caught in a web of absolutely twisted emotional bonds. He told her not to get involved. Would a group of normal people get together to play mafia? Normal people would run for the hills, but this group was practically screaming to jump in. He had thought Willow was normal, but now it seemed she wasn't. What kind of normal person, when faced with so many twisted individuals, would still charge headfirst into the fray? Willow's voice came from behind him. "Leo, can you not go? I'm just walking you upstairs. You should go home and think things over," Leo said, trying to soften his tone. This was something Willow had to figure out on her own. Whether she stayed or left, nothing Leo said would matter. But Willow's actions did not slow down. She took off her coat. Underneath were the black tube top and the pale skin of her stomach. Her expression was pleading, and in the flickering green light of the emergency exit sign, she looked strangely demonic. "Leo, give me something. Even if it's just a promise to be responsible for me after we do it, I'm willing to believe you." Willow's impulse was born from extreme insecurity. This wasn't the usual lack of confidence a girl feels in front of someone she likes. In her daily life, she was rarely unconfident. She could handle love letters from boys at school, invitations for New Year's Eve, and the explosion of friend requests on her social media after a performance, all with a heart as still as water, politely declining each one. Because more than romance, she preferred her own little comfort zone. Fishing, raising her cat. Call her lazy or unambitious, she just liked that atmosphere. Other people intruding on her life felt like a disruption of that comfort. At first, she thought of it that way. Two parallel lines that would never intersect and thus never entangle. The trouble began when she and Leo inexplicably connected. A volatile X-factor had entered her life, disturbing the Tao of her heart. Now, she wanted that X-factor to stay, to gradually bring stability back to her life. She had confidence in herself, confidence that with enough time, she could build a stable emotional bond. Given enough time, they could one day live a life of one couple for one lifetime. But it seemed she didn't have that much time. Her inner turmoil was raging, fueled by her cousin-in-law's words, Skylar's behavior, and her fear of the deep emotional bond with Summerlin. Leo might not regain his memory on New Year's Day. But what if he did? She only had a few days. So in her anxiety, she craved some security, even if it was just a promise. "Leo, you said you'd be responsible, right?" Willow was grasping at straws again. Leo draped the coat over her shoulders. The underground garage was damp and cold. He didn't want her to catch a cold. "We just had our first official date today. Even if you're offering it for free, isn't this a bit rushed? Then can you give me a promise? A promise that even if you get your memory back, we'll still be together." "Willow, I could make you 100 promises like that, but they'd be meaningless." Leo felt such a promise was pointless. Who you fall in love with is something that follows your heart. Right now, I want to make one last attempt to get my memory back. Let's talk about things in 3 days. I can't even get a promise? Just this morning, Leo had poured his heart out to her. She had been so supportive then. Why the sudden change? "Willow, what kind of promise do you want? That you won't have anything to do with them anymore, and you'll still be with me." "I can promise the first part, but not the second part." Leo shook his head and leaned in close to her, his expression serious. "Because we're not together right now, either." Leo thought Willow was great in every way, except she was too hasty in this regard. But this time he was patient. "Willow, you're not worse than anyone else. Why do you always think like that?" Leo sat back in the car and turned on the overhead light. "Right now, I don't even know your birthday, your favorite foods, your clothing size, or your daily habits. And you don't know much about me either. A necessary period of getting to know each other is being responsible to both of us. You want me to sleep with you and then give you a promise? That's easier than farting, but it would be meaningless except to hurt you. But I enjoy being with you. If you feel that my not taking things further after one date means I'm stringing you along, then I'm sorry, but we're not compatible. No one gets into a relationship to find trouble for themselves. That's how Leo saw it. While he was single, his time with Willow felt comfortable, so he enjoyed that process. The light illuminated Willow's profile. She listened to his words, speechless. She nodded gently. Okay, I understand. When a person has a strong objective, they only hear what they want to hear from the other person's words. She understood Leo's attitude toward her. Good, but just a little more than friends. She was actually very happy. For the two of them, in just one day, to have made such a leap forward was a very good thing. But she wasn't entirely happy, because the stage she was at now, Skylar had reached long ago. How could her one day compete with Skylar's 1 year? Willow leaned back against the seat, no longer pressing the issue. Instead, she asked something she was very concerned about. Can I ask what you think of them now? They're all friends, except for my cousin-in-law. Leo wouldn't say more on this topic. It would involve other people's privacy. Do your past conflicts with them still exist? Willow asked another question. Why do you ask? Leo was a bit confused. You didn't date them in the past because of all the big and small conflicts, right? They haven't been resolved. Isabella is still her usual self-centered self. Skylar has her pursuits. Evelyn is still eccentric. Then why can you still be friends with them? Willow leaned forward this time, her expression very serious. Do you need a reason to be friends? This question stumped Leo. He didn't even know how to answer. Yes, because it's all lost memory, so why are they friends, but my cousin-in-law isn't? Leo understood what she meant. She was asking why he still had contact with them despite the conflicts. Because based on their behavior after my amnesia, there are still people worth being friends with. I see. Willow turned her head away, her lips trembling slightly. She was so far behind. Leo was right. His thoughts after the amnesia were what mattered most. But other people have been doing things after his amnesia, too. What if you added a deep emotional foundation on top of that? Perhaps she really needed to calm down. At the same time, in the underground parking garage, Ethan Miller had arrived at the psychology clinic, calmly recounting his experience. My dad said he was doing it for my own good. Ethan repeated the entire conversation with his father, appearing deeply moved. I hate myself for being a useless waste, for not being able to help my dad. Across from him, Dr. Evelyn Shaw listened quietly, a million questions in her mind. The story was indeed touching, like a traditional father-son heart-to-heart. But Edward Miller was a man who played for high stakes. He might lack experience in father-son communication, but when it came to a personal crisis, would he really keep it to himself for so many years? When he knew that telling his son would make him take things seriously, why wouldn't he? What was the point? Evelyn didn't voice her doubts, but she magnified them in her mind, because this didn't fit Edward Miller's cautious behavioral pattern. As for why she didn't mention it, because the final result of this father-son talk aligned with her personal goals. So have you thought about how you can help your father? I have, but I don't know if I should do it. Ethan, being true to yourself means following your heart. But the things I've thought of are a bit extreme. Ethan's expression was a mixture of torment and conflict. Perhaps you can tell me about them? Evelyn gently brushed her hair back. If my cousin died, everything would be over. Ethan took off his gold-rimmed glasses and rubbed his face incessantly, his shaking legs betraying his inner turmoil. He pulled out a cigarette and started to walk outside to smoke. Technically, you can't smoke in the clinic, but you can this time. After hearing those words, Evelyn couldn't possibly let Ethan go off alone to cool down. This was the perfect opportunity to pry his mouth open. She pressed on. I don't understand family feuds. How did you deduce that your cousin's death is the solution? I don't understand it either. I just analyzed it from my dad's words. Analyzed? Another doubt arose in Evelyn's mind. To tell his son everything in detail while wanting him to stay away from the conflict was highly problematic in itself. Look at Rick Miller's behavior for comparison. He wanted his son to stay out of it, so he simply kept him in the dark. Because he knew this stuff was like Pandora's box. Even peeking through a tiny crack could lead to disaster. Even if Edward was a fool, he had his brother's template right in front of him. Couldn't he at least copy it? So, was it really your analysis, or was your father deliberately guiding you? Evelyn, of course, didn't say this out loud. Instead, she continued, is killing your cousin a difficult thing for you to do? I can't get past it in my heart. Ethan suddenly looked up, his face filled with terror. Do you know, Doctor, the night of my cousin's car accident, I dreamed of him 4 times? The scary part is, I wasn't even asleep. I was just sitting by the window, and I would involuntarily fall into a daze, and a bloody face would pop into my mind, and then I would suddenly wake up. I can't tell if it's real or a dream. Evelyn didn't press further at this point. It was clear Ethan was on the verge of breakdown. Let's listen to some music or talk about something you like, scenery, food. No, Dr. Shaw. This has been weighing on my heart for too long. I don't want to kill my cousin at all. That's understandable. A person's actions can be influenced by many external factors. So, was your cousin's car accident also at your father's instruction? Evelyn casually turned on the CD player, as if asking an offhand question. In reality, her heart was in her throat. She was so close to the truth. No, it was my uncle. Your uncle? Yes, the Reverend Wild. At first, I thought he had some intellectual disability, so I used to sneak him pastries. After getting to know him, I can no longer tell who has the disability. Sometimes he thinks fish can give birth to people, and I think that's quite right. A little over 2 months ago, I was scolded by my father about the engagement. I didn't want to get engaged to a woman, but after my father said, I fell silent. I went to my uncle again with my troubles, and he said, "You have to understand your dad. His position is unstable, so naturally he needs your help." I said, "My engagement will stabilize his position?" My uncle said, "The root of the problem is your cousin. As long as your cousin is around, your dad will be on edge." A crazy idea popped into my head then. If my father could be stable, could I be myself? But this thought was dismissed as soon as it appeared. Are you kidding me? This is murder. It's too crazy. Besides, I have no experience. Until my little follower, Connor, casually mentioned a way to kill someone by staging a car accident. At first, he just listened to it as a story, even thinking how difficult it would be to pull off. Where'd he get a car? Where would he find people? Then, at the custom car shop he frequented, a batch of parts for a discontinued Hummer suddenly arrived, just enough to build a complete one. He originally wanted to take the discontinued car for a spin, but he accidentally ran into some troublemakers at the bar entrance. The three of them couldn't beat one guy. Later, he found out this guy was a wanted fugitive, with a rap sheet taller than Ethan himself. And then he suddenly realized everything was in place. All he needed was to lure the target. How to do that? It was Connor again who stepped forward and said he might have a way. So Ethan, in a daze, found himself with all the conditions met. All he needed was to give the order to become himself. To do it or not, he did it. Listening to Ethan's criminal confession, Evelyn felt like she was taking a police statement. He had sketched out a few characters. Who is this Connor? My fiancé's distant cousin. He's my driver, basically my lackey. Peyton's cousin? Evelyn felt like she had stumbled upon something major. Of course, this whole story was full of major things. The origin of the Hummer and the fugitive was highly questionable. Were there really that many coincidences? Evelyn only knew that when all the coincidences lined up, they became an inevitability. So the real culprit is your uncle. The culprit is me. Ethan's expression was surprisingly calm. My uncle is a free spirit. My other uncle is a man of his word. The people in my family are actually all very good. Ethan, when so many coincidences appeared, you already had the answer in your heart, didn't you? Evelyn looked straight into his calm eyes. I don't know, but I have to do something. Are you going to help this time, too? Yes, Ethan said, his voice firm. This time, it was Evelyn's turn to hesitate. Her morals were twisted. Who lived or died didn't matter to her. Even if Leo really died, she couldn't do anything about it. She would follow him anyway. But the factor that made her hesitate was still Leo. Or rather, because of Leo's existence, she was still living in this world, retaining a sliver of normal morality. As if she thought of something, Evelyn suddenly changed her tune. Ethan, don't be so extreme. Listen to your father's advice and be yourself. Go abroad and enjoy your wonderful life. Dr. Shaw, I just had to talk to you. My mind is made up. Whatever you're thinking, listen to me. Go calm down and get some sleep. Okay. Remember, Evelyn suddenly added, extremism doesn't solve problems. After sending Ethan off, Evelyn eagerly called Leo. I did something today that was a bit out of character for me. Did you switch from bloodletting to giving yourself a transfusion at the hospital? I saved an extremist soul. How did you save him? By persuading him to kill someone or take revenge on society. I persuaded him to enjoy his wonderful life. Evelyn hid behind the curtains, listening to Leo's sudden silence on the phone, and then smiled for no reason. Are you shocked? But don't be too shocked. I was just thinking that if you found out, I might not be able to get scolded by you anymore. Is that really what you were thinking? MMHMM. So hurry up and scold me a little as a reward. Evelyn put on an expectant look, her hand silently moving downwards, until Leo slowly spoke on the other end of the line. Evelyn Shaw, You're a great psychologist. That's not scolding, but it's okay, I guess. Evelyn silently moved her hand back up. You're right. If I found out, I would be very angry. So be good for now on, okay? Okay. Evelyn curled up in the corner of the windowsill, her thin body completely hidden by the swaying curtains. But they couldn't hide her smile. Leo, why aren't you scolding me yet? Because I'm trying to think of a way to reward you. From now on, every time you do a good deed, I'll reward you. Scolding me is the reward. Evelyn, scolding isn't a reward. Leo was just walking out of the main gate of Willow's apartment complex when he answered Evelyn's call. When he'd walked Willow upstairs, she had been quiet and reserved. But Leo thought nothing of it. That's just how dating worked. In the process of getting to know each other, you figure out if you can accept both the good and the bad. If she couldn't accept it, then so be it. As for Evelyn's news, he was actually quite happy to hear it. Her situation had always been a problem he couldn't solve, because you never knew if she wanted change. Leo couldn't stand on a moral high ground and say, what you're doing is wrong. Maybe she was happy that way. But to hear that she was making a change, even if it was just getting a little closer to a normal life, Leo thought it was great. At the very least, not thinking about dying all the time and being able to socialize and live normally was a huge step. If he could get someone who wanted to die to give up that idea and start a normal life, Leo would gladly spank her every day. And so, as Leo rode his scooter to find Evelyn, Willow, who was supposed to be resting at home, quietly slipped downstairs. She was deliberately avoiding Leo, heading in the opposite direction. Leo was eating a cloyingly sweet and vinegary carp, a local take on a famous dish that was definitely not authentic. Thank God it wasn't, because eating the authentic version was akin to grabbing a rabid dog that had just feasted on rotten chicken guts off the street and French kissing it. Yet, Evelyn reveled in this kind of self-torture. But what was more terrifying than the fish was what Evelyn had just said. Leo stared at her in shock. You mean, the soul you just saved was Ethan, and he was originally planning to kill me? That's right. Aren't I amazing? Then what was your purpose in being Ethan's psychologist in the first place? To get him to kill you. Are your left and right brains fighting each other? But Ethan might not listen to me, so be careful. Of course he won't listen, Leo said, pausing to sort through his thoughts. If the first car accident was the Reverend Wild's doing, then everything made sense. Because Peyton was also one of his people. But what was his uncle's goal? To make him and Ethan fight each other. People's actions are driven by self-interest. What good would it do him if the two of them fought? Leo didn't know what good it would do, but the scene felt strangely familiar. Weren't his dad and his uncle Edward fighting like this too? Got it. The Reverend Wild was a seasoned cockfighting promoter, and they were all the roosters. Upon learning this, Leo did nothing. He just called his father, Rick. Dad, case closed. Your older brother is using you too as fighting cocks. Huh? Son, I don't understand. Let me ask you, in 20 years, you never once suspected your older brother? I investigated everyone in the Miller family, even the cleaning lady. Of course I investigated him, but there was no evidence. You guys in the mob care about evidence. Son, that's not right. This is a society ruled by law now. Forget about the evidence for a minute. My car accident was your brother's doing, and now they're trying to get me again. Protect me. Leo didn't care about the messy details. Saving his own skin was the top priority. Amnesia, family fortune. What was more important than his life? Son, don't worry. Just share your location with me at all times, and I'll follow you. Bullshit. You can't guard against a thief 1,000 days in a row, can you? Unless Leo holed up in a police station and never came out, there was no way to guarantee his safety. As for seeking protection from the police, that was the first thing Leo thought of. But what would he say? That his cousin was trying to kill him? A kind-hearted officer would ask, do you have any concrete information? And Leo would just be stuck. So hiding was not an option. He couldn't hide forever. He had to face this head-on. In fact, it might be best to let it happen. Because if it happened, there would be evidence. And then they could have a grand Miller family reunion behind bars. He wouldn't have to deal with this family drama anymore. This is a good thing. Leo started to calm down, seriously considering his next move. There were two key elements, Ethan and Peyton. Given that both the Reverend Wild and Edward were acting strangely, it meant the two old foxes had already figured out their escape plan. So, no matter what Ethan's motive was for trying to kill him, he had to succeed. Otherwise, the situation would remain a stalemate. The patriarch was the judge now, and as long as nothing happened, he would just play peacemaker. But as long as Leo survived, his rise would be unstoppable. Evelyn had indeed recounted the conversation between Edward and his son, but Leo didn't believe it. All that stuff about the patriarch wanting to compensate Rick was probably just a lie made up by that black-hearted Edward. Leo could only trust his own judgment now. So how could he implicate the two older brothers? The key was Peyton, because that woman knew too much. Leo didn't know their game, but he could deduce it from the process of the car accident. The culprit was Ethan, but the knife was handed to him by the Reverend Wild. This conclusion came from the various accidents during the preparation for the crash. Connor accidentally mentioning the story of killing someone in a car accident. That was all a bunch of crap. Could Ethan not tell if it was a coincidence? It was all just going with the flow. He was so clear about how he accidentally got the Hummer and accidentally met the fugitive. But when it came to his own decision to crash into Leo, he was vague. He didn't believe anyone's story anymore. They all just said what sounded good. The concert? Don't let me go to the concert. Leo suddenly understood Peyton's meaning. Why was she trying so hard to stop him from going to the concert? She even used the engagement party to tie him down. Because the knife the Reverend Wild handed him was at the concert. Leo ordered a cucumber, leaned back in his chair, and closed his eyes to think. What was Peyton's position? She didn't want him to die, but she wouldn't tell the truth. Did his uncle have something on her? Was this deduction correct or not? Leo couldn't draw a conclusion about Peyton's position. Because he had amnesia, he couldn't form a complete picture of her. Evelyn, tell me the amnesia plan again. How do we do it? We need Ethan. Let's assume Ethan is going to try and kill me again. What do we do? I can't tell you that. It's not that I'm being cryptic, but if you have a psychological expectation, it won't work. Evelyn's plan required feelings as a medium. Feelings with a purpose and unexpected feelings are two different things. It's like if you know your dream girl will reject your confession. If you prepare yourself mentally, even if she rejects you, you won't be too devastated. But if your dream girl walks up to you and says, "Creep, can you stop staring at me?" the level of devastation would definitely be different. Fine, you proceed with your plan. Leo didn't even have time to take Evelyn home before he rushed to the lounge. All those days at the farm weren't for nothing. He didn't know what might happen at the concert, so he had to make some preparations. He had to talk to Silas about this. But on the way, he called Willow. Leo had to avoid any accidents. "Willow, how are you now?" "I'm fine. Listen to me. Let's put our relationship on hold for now. We'll talk about it after the concert, okay?" "Okay. I probably can't make it to the engagement party. If you're not happy about it, we can pick another day for the engagement. I'll definitely be there. I'll go to your parents and apologize." "It's okay. I know you have important things to do." Willow's voice was calm. "Are you being honest? Do you need to change the day?" "No need, Leo." "Okay. I have to go now. MMHMM." At this moment, Willow was standing at the entrance of the Celestial Master Sanctuary. She planned to stay here in seclusion for a few days, because her heart was not at peace. "Why have you decided to come and stay for a few days, Willow?" Master Hausher personally came out to greet her. "My cultivation state has been poor lately. I wanted a change of environment. A change of environment is a good thing, but if the heart is not at peace, it will be the same everywhere." Master Hausher didn't say much more, leading Willow deeper inside. Her reply to Leo just now wasn't a lie, because she didn't want to go to the engagement party anymore either. She just considered it her just deserts. Because she didn't want to go to the engagement party anymore either. She just considered it her just deserts. Dinner at the sanctuary was naturally simple fare. Willow was usually used to it, but today she had no appetite. Just as she turned to leave, Master Hausher called out to her. "Do you need your master to guide you in your cultivation?" "Yes." Willow sat obediently by the well, this time making a point to look down into it. No one was there. The kind-faced master didn't put on any airs. They were old acquaintances. "Have you suffered a setback in matters of the heart? I feel like I'm a bit rushed." Willow honestly told her master about her troubles. "I've heard the Reverend Wild mention it. He has amnesia?" "Yes. The Yellow Emperor's Classic of Medicine says that the human body is a microcosm that corresponds to the macrocosm of nature. Changes in nature, external evils, and so on can all affect the human body, leading to various physical and mental changes. Amnesia may be one of them." After saying this, Master Hausher continued. "So this is a kind of illness. The most important thing for a sick person is to recover. Other things will be cast aside. This is human nature. So why not wait until he has recovered to talk about love?" "Master, I understand this principle. But if he recovers, I will have no chance of winning. He has a deep, inseparable emotional bond." Hearing this, Willow opened her hand and held up 5 fingers. "He has 5 of them. That's really... I wish I could get rid of them all at once." Master Hausher stood frozen, then suddenly chopped his hand down on the edge of the well. "Master, he's not what you think." Willow felt that her master must have misunderstood. She couldn't tell if Leo was a player or not, but what kind of player would refuse a freebie? Sometimes, Willow couldn't even bring herself to hate him. "Master, why is he different with me than with others?" Willow had heard many stories about Leo's past. She felt that the Leo in the stories treated them completely differently than he treated her. This very abstract question was solved by Master Hausher. How does he treat them? It feels like he's saving one flawed soul after another. Do you think you need to be saved? Master Hausher asked, looking down. Hearing this, Willow suddenly froze. She felt something in her mind break through the soil. Compared to the others, was she the one who needed to be saved? What kind of person was she in Leo's eyes? She recalled their first meeting at the family dinner, when they walked side by side to the patriarch's residence. On that warm afternoon, she had called him a player, but his eyes had lit up, and he had said with a surprised smile, "It's not easy to meet someone with such a strong moral compass like you." From the very beginning, he didn't think I was someone who needed to be saved. So he looked at me with a smile, accepting all my taunts, and we could talk in a relaxed and happy atmosphere. When did he stop looking at me with a smile? When I started asking him for love. Willow continued to think deeper. Why did she like Leo? It was when she was at a loss about the engagement, and he said, "You have to walk out of your destiny with grace." Then he went downstairs and smashed her uncle's car, giving her a demonstration. It was by the lake after the game of Mafia, when she was lost, and he said, "Why is the big tree so still? Are you also heavy with worries?" He told her his complete thought process, telling her to follow her heart. It was when she took it upon herself to hold an engagement party, and he, facing her dark, corrupted self, said, "All my charm comes from your imagination after hearing the stories. You need to get to know the real me." So, had she really not been saved? Wasn't this saving her? The person listening to the story always realizes later that some stories are actually happening to them. Willow felt like crying as she recalled the past. She would never forget that day at the family dinner. The first time she carried the weight of her family's pressure, standing lost in the Miller family's yard, nervously waiting for her fiancé. A guy with his jacket slung over his shoulder came up to her and said, "It's okay if you don't like me. I have a plan to solve the problem." Now, her father's position was gradually rising, and her best friend Skylar hadn't broken off their friendship because of it. At the family dinner, he had kept his promise to her. At least since she became his fiancée, she hadn't had to worry about that. And as for everything else, he had never promised her anything, because that was their relationship from the beginning. "Master, so what am I asking for? I just want a simple life." "Willow, is the process of being with him really simple?" Master Hausher's words awakened her. Willow suddenly had another epiphany. Have we ever had a simple time? Today might have been the only simple interaction, but after only half a day of simplicity, she was anxiously asking for a promise. So am I really pursuing simplicity? Willow was about to cry from frustration. "Master, what do I really want? From what you've just said, I can hear your envy of the other girls. This might mean that what you really want is for him to always be by your side when you need to be saved. You have never been simple together, so how can you talk about wanting a simple life?" Master Hausher sighed, a hint of reminiscence in his eyes. The path of love is the most difficult to solve because a person cannot see themselves clearly in matters of the heart. "Master, so what should I do?" "Recognize yourself, and then do what you want to do." Willow's expression was firm. "I want to keep him by my side. That's a good thing. Is it a good thing to act extremely? Seeking the Tao is not about kneeling down and begging pitifully. How do I seek the Tao? Please enlighten me, Master." The Tao is in your heart. As long as you can get closer to your Tao, any way of seeking is seeking. Master Hausher said this without a change in expression. Then he quietly stood up and went back to his room to meditate. In the thousands of matters in the world, who can tell what is good or bad until the very end? But of course, one must live optimistically. So it's all good. Willow walked to the quiet room where she and Leo used to meditate. Her eyes were bright as she looked up at the cushion. Some decisions only take a few seconds to make. Come in a hurry, leave in a hurry. But she still remembered Leo's advice from today. When making a decision, you should ask for other people's opinions. She called Leo. "Leo, what if your grandfather sends people to grab you and take you to the engagement party? I'll run. You help cover for me, and I'll treat you to dinner later. What if you can't run away? Then I can only shout at the sky 3 times. Damn it." "I see." This time Willow had asked. Leo might be angry. She had really asked. She couldn't control the rest. If Leo was really angry, she would accept it. Anyway, she couldn't give other people a chance. Not even a little. This was her Tao. If this were a cultivation novel, Willow would probably be the kind of sect genius who achieves the Tao through her inner demons. Willow calmly prepared to say goodbye to her master. But her master didn't see her. Only a junior disciple was waiting at the door. "Please inform Master that I would like to invite him to my engagement party." Master said that his groin has been in unbearable pain lately, and he may not be able to leave the sanctuary. Willow sighed and was about to leave, but the junior disciple handed her a piece of calligraphy. Master asked me to give you this. Willow opened it on the spot. It only had 7 words. The self must die for the soul to be born. 1 day left until Summerlin's concert. In this age of social media, all of Riverbend's local feeds were flooded with news about it. Leo had spent the last 2 days running around, preparing for any eventuality, but he still felt uneasy. He sat on the 2nd floor of the lounge, nursing a Coke and acting out a scene. Silas, do you think Ethan might pull out a bio? If he really prepared something like that, the location wouldn't be the concert. So if I stay in the audience the whole time, my life will be safe. Theoretically, yes. Silas, half asleep, glanced at the kid in front of him who showed little panic. It's an obvious trap. Are you sure you want to walk into it? What else am I supposed to do? Take down the Miller family in an economic war. Leo sat on a stool, holding his Coke and pointing at himself. Silas, do you think I have the potential to go ring the bell at NASDAQ? Who gave you the delusion that ringing the bell at NASDAQ would be enough to take down the Millers? Leo was just spouting nonsense. He had something more important on his mind. Silas, from your perspective, why did I intentionally crash the car back then? Silas returned the same sentence structure. Why are you intentionally going to the concert this time? High risk, high reward. Then why can't intentionally crashing the car also be for high risk, high reward? Silas leaned back in his bamboo chair, kicking off his flip-flops. Do you know why I showed up at your car accident scene on time? You got good sources? Caring for your employees? Because you came to me first. Leo nodded. Now it was confirmed. The source of the story Isabella told him was true. Silas had told her himself to respect Leo's wishes. So what did I come to you for? You came to me to investigate Peyton and asked me to save your life. You're that easy to persuade? You just agreed to help. You think I'm your dad? I'll help you just because you asked. Silas scratched his head. It was purely because your plan shocked me. You told me straight up that the car accident had to happen for real. I'm awesome, right? You're the biggest idiot in the world. I only went because I was curious. Curious to see what you meant by letting the car accident happen for real. Who knew you were going to ram right into it? But I survived, didn't I? Leo understood now. The car accident situation was the same as this time. He was rushing to his own death. It's just that back then, he had made the wrong judgment, thinking a car accident would give him the upper hand. It wasn't entirely a wrong judgment, though. Wasn't everything now a result of that crash? Leo asked his second question. Since you investigated Peyton, what kind of person is she? Selfish, but not purely so. People like that are doomed to a bad end. Tell me more. I don't know much more. But that lack of purity is all because of you. I see. Leo now just needed to confirm Peyton's position. He moved on to the next question. Silas, why didn't you tell me all this sooner? You mean right after I lost my memory? Yes. Think about your attitude towards anyone related to the car accident back then. Wary. If I told you then, what would your attitude towards me have been? Distrustful. But now that you've found out some of the truth on your own, what's your attitude towards me? Godfather, you're so good to me. Silas showed a satisfied expression. I'm known for being all about profit. If I can't even get some gratitude, why would I do all this? Old hustler, as expected. Your heart is black, Leo muttered under his breath. Silas walked to the shrine by the window, lit 3 incense sticks, and bowed respectfully. Without turning his head, he said, Leo, being capable is just the price of admission to the lounge, but there aren't many reckless fools who dare to take risks. Thanks for the compliment. Aren't you afraid I'll bankrupt your lounge one day? Leo copied Silas and offered 3 incense sticks. A reckless fool won't do, but a cautious, reckless fool is interesting. You hid it from your dad and welcomed the car accident. You hid it from Peyton and came to me, and you hid it from me and crashed the car. Every step, at first glance, was a stupid move. At least I didn't know what you were thinking. But I don't believe you had no purpose in every step, and I certainly don't believe you left no backup plan. Silas turned to look at Leo's face, his expression rich as their eyes met. Just like this time you came to me. Didn't you already guess in your heart that my presence at the car accident was part of your plan? Old man, don't project your black heart onto others, Leo retorted loudly. You played dumb for 2 months just to slowly bait me. Try to use information asymmetry to figure out my angle. What are you talking about? No. Leo continued to argue. So, have you figured out my angle? Just confirming that my being alive aligns with your interests is enough. Leo admitted openly, patting his head. My brain is broken, so I'm a bit more cautious. The old hustler and the young hustler stared at each other, and finally, the old hustler sighed. Being cautious is a good thing. Damn, I thought you were going to smash a cup as a signal for the assassins to rush in. Leo, this is why I chose you. You're so much like me when I was young. Leo rolled his eyes at that. If you want to praise yourself, just do it. I'll just flatter you. Why go through all this trouble? Leo was puzzled. Why was he getting so much praise today? Turns out Silas was just waiting to praise himself. Leo continued to bicker with Silas, but he felt a sense of relief. Good. The last landmine was cleared. This time, all the enemies were in front of him. No one was stabbing him in the back, right? Leo rode a shared e-scooter, mulling things over. His goal was the same. Whatever the Reverend Wild, Edward, and Ethan were planning, he would act as if nothing was happening. He would go to the concert as normal. As for what would happen in the end, no one knew. But the danger level was far lower than the last car accident, unless Leo decided to ram into something again. After all, it was a public place, and he had to be mindful of the impact. And Leo himself had made preparations. His initial judgment was that the Reverend Wild enjoyed watching internal strife, probably some kind of psychopathic hobby. He didn't understand Edward's attitude, but just looking at how he guided Ethan, he was probably in the same boat. As for Ethan, objectively, he sympathized, but subjectively, Leo hoped he'd end up in jail soon. Pity is pity, but if you come to me now, maybe I'd even let bygones be bygones and give you some advice. But being a knife in someone else's hand, that's your own choice. Don't blame your cousin for being heartless. Your rich boy's life is a life, but my poor boy's life isn't? But there was still one thing Leo didn't understand. Knowing that Leo was supposed to attend the engagement party, why was his uncle so sure he would go to the concert? At the very least, you could have someone call me. Hello, is this Leo Miller? Congratulations, you've won the first prize in our New Year surprise giveaway. Please come to the Riverbend Arena to collect it. If it's a long trip, remember to buy a one-way ticket. Why a one-way ticket? Because if you come, you're not going back. Leo wandered the streets, fantasizing about his bright future. Collect enough evidence, bring all the evil to justice, and get his memory back along the way. Then, the battle-hardened, fully recovered Master Miller would inherit the lounge, let his mom enjoy her retirement, and then realize he's just a 20-year-old sophomore. He could enjoy life, maybe even settle down and fall in love. A beautiful life was just around the corner. Riding the shared e-scooter, lost in a grand fantasy, Master Miller was completely unaware that the streetlights on Peace Road were out today. A black van slowly approached in the darkness. By the time it sped away from Peace Road, all that was left was the overturned e-scooter on the roadside. From inside the van, Leo's faint shouts could be heard. Bro, I'm telling you, let me go, or your house might get a visit from a propane tank. Dad, you're here too? Say something. Aren't you supposed to be a gangster? Dude, my buddy is Silas. He's a big shot on Peace Road. He hits really hard. What? There are no gangsters in this age of law and order. You're a kidnapper lecturing me about the law. Time rewinds to the afternoon. The Miller family estate. The bamboo house by the man-made lake. A young woman in a black dress crouched down to pet the old dog in front of the bamboo house, smiling as she looked at the old man being helped back from the lakeside. Hello, Grandpa Miller. Hello. Why don't I see that rascal Winston? The patriarch looked at his granddaughter-in-law, a rare smile gracing his lips. Grandpa, my dad doesn't know I'm here yet. The patriarch just glanced at Willow. It's not easy for you to get in here without that rascal. He coughed twice, spitting out a glob of phlegm laced with blood. What has Leo done that's so out of line that even Edward can't handle it? Grandpa, I'm here to apologize. I want to cancel tomorrow's engagement party. The patriarch turned his head without a word, gesturing for Willow to continue. Willow braced herself. Leo is a bit busy tomorrow. He might not be able to make it. What's so important that he can't even come to his own engagement? The patriarch wasn't asking Willow, but the man in the suit helping him. The man in the suit shook his head, indicating nothing was wrong. It was hard to read the expression on the patriarch's wrinkled face. Only a series of coughs could be heard. A medical team rushed out of the bamboo house and surrounded him. It took a full 5 minutes before he could speak again. Little girl from the Shung family, if you have a request, just say it. I'm about to put on that damn mask again. Grandpa Miller, I just want to have a proper engagement and be a good fiancé. The family and friends. The first part is enough. Grandpa Miller waved his hand before she could finish, patting the man in the suit's shoulder. No matter where that damn kid is messing around, drag him back here, even if you have to hogtie him. The girl has come to our door. We can't lose our manners. Patriarch, it's easy to grab Leo, but I'm afraid Rick. If he shows his face, grab him too. Like father, like son. A crooked beam will have a crooked shadow. Patriarch, a joyous occasion shouldn't be noisy. How about I go and persuade Leo? Repeat what I said. The patriarch said without looking up, his voice low. The man in the suit quickly lowered his head and muttered, no matter where that damn kid is messing around, Drag him back here, even if you have to hogtie him. The girl has come to our door. We can't lose our manners. The man in the suit instructed the medical team to take care of the patriarch, and another man in a suit took his place. After he left, the patriarch looked up at the second man in the suit. Nothing's wrong. As far as I know, the young master might be planning to go to a concert tomorrow. Are you bullshitting me? It's the concert of his girlfriend of 8 years. The patriarch was helped into the bamboo house, his violent coughing making it almost impossible for him to speak a complete sentence. It's best if nothing is wrong. Cough, cough. Tomorrow, Leo must be at the ceremony. Yes, patriarch. In the offices of Apex Media, Peyton, dressed in a camel-colored coat, still hadn't gone home, even late at night. The concert was tomorrow. There was really nothing left for her to do. She was just hesitating over who to leave her last $1 million to. Thinking of this, she laughed bitterly. After all these years, she only had $1 million in savings. It might be a lot for an ordinary person, but for all her years of hard work, it was pitifully small. I'll leave it to my dad, she decided. She didn't want to give it to him, but who else was there? Maybe a miserable end was what she deserved. The phone rang. Peyton looked at the caller ID and answered. Have you contacted Leo? The Reverend Wild's familiar voice came from the other end. I have. Will he be at the concert tomorrow? He will. Everything can proceed as planned. The familiar script was still playing out. The task of getting Leo to the scene still fell on her. The Reverend Wild's tone suddenly changed. Then explain to me why Leo has been taken back to the Miller estate and locked up. Maybe something went wrong. Should I go back to the estate and check? Something went wrong? This is a huge problem. The order to grab him came from the old man himself. He's only lucid for 3 or 4 hours a day now. News from the outside is carefully filtered before it reaches him. How did the news of Leo not attending the engagement party get to his ears? Peyton's face was calm, but inside, she breathed a sigh of relief. Her words to Willow had worked. From the last time she'd gone dark, it was clear that Willow was not a weak person at heart. Since the patriarch had stepped in, Leo probably couldn't get out. Peyton, listen to me. I must see Leo at the concert tomorrow. Snatching someone from the patriarch is overestimating my abilities. You might as well just kill me. How do you know you're not about to die? The Reverend Wild sneered over the phone. Peyton, don't think I don't know about your little schemes. If the car accident hadn't actually happened, I would have dealt with you long ago. But you're lucky. I only look at results. Tomorrow, I want to see Leo at the concert. If he doesn't die, you will. And that's far easier than killing Leo, because too many people care about him. If Leo goes missing for more than a few hours, many people will be searching for him all over the world. But who will look for you? Your money-grubbing father back in your village? If I say you went to Spain and left him a large sum of money before you left, will he look for you? The answer is no. When your body is sinking in the high seas, he'll just be counting his money and preparing to marry a new wife. After hearing her uncle's words, Peyton stared straight ahead, her face impassive. I want him to come too, but I can't. What if you tell him that if he doesn't come, you will die? My image in his eyes is probably worse than his own father's. Just try. This kind of game of testing human nature always makes me realize that sometimes people are worse than wild animals. Peyton put down her phone, her face showing little emotion. She had prepared herself for this long ago. Leo wouldn't come, and he couldn't come, and she didn't want him to. She took off her high heels, curled up in her chair, and stroked the ring on her hand. Her gaze went through the glass window, looking north. It was probably 20 below zero there now. Is spring coming soon? It should be soon. She might not live to see the next spring. It would be nice if it were spring, because someone in a distant place had once told her, in spring, you don't dream of death. Leo felt that his life was truly bizarre. He accepted being kidnapped by kidnappers. Since he was the victim, if they hit him or cursed him, the tough guy Leo, would take it. If he made a peep, it meant he couldn't take a beating. But what's the deal with kidnapping me and then apologizing? Leo looked blankly at the familiar Miller family courtyard and the muscular men in front of him who were apologizing profusely. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Young master, we're just working stiffs. If we offended you just now, you can hit me or curse me. Leo was fuming. I order you all to beat me up right now. It has to be at least a minor injury. I want to call the police and have you all arrested. Young master, we can beat you up, but you probably can't call the police. What? You go to restrict my movements. Young master, your phone has been confiscated. It will be returned to you after the engagement party tomorrow. Where did they take my phone? Leo felt his pockets, then looked up blankly at the burly men. You kidnapped me to steal my phone? I'm telling you, you guys are going to jail for this. The men automatically ignored this, and the leader came forward and said, Young master, you just ordered us to beat you. Should we still do it? Beat my ass. Leo was truly furious. His perfectly planned, beautiful life was ruined in an instant. What was the meaning of this? Leo was now in an unknown house within the Miller family villa complex. The location wasn't bad. He could see the ancestral hall and the man-made lake in the distance. Whose house did you bring me to? Leo looked around at the European-style decor. The house was clearly well-maintained, but by today's standards, the details were a bit gaudy. What tacky decor? Son, what do you think of your dad's taste back in the day? This is your house. Leo couldn't help but take a second look at the big house. It's your house, too. Cut the crap. What house? You're just lucky you get to see it because of me. What house? A place you can't go back to isn't a home. Leo shook his head and walked over to his dad, his brow furrowed as he began to lay into him. You were supposed to protect me. How did you get caught before I did? Son, I saw this suspicious car and thought I'd take the initiative, but they had too many people, I couldn't do anything. Don't make excuses. Think of a way to get us out. Son, I actually do have a way. You're the man in a crisis, Dad. Leo knew, even with his eyes closed, who had captured him. It was the patriarch. But how did he know Leo was planning to skip the engagement party? He didn't know who had a loose tongue and leaked the news. Leo couldn't think of anyone who would do such a thing. The Reverend would have been thrilled for him to go to the concert. So why would he let the patriarch know? The good thing was, no one was watching Leo's every move. Because they didn't need to. The Miller family had its own security patrols. Dad, what if we run into a patrol? Who will be so blind as to stop me? Perhaps the shame of father and son being captured together was too much. Rick was now pumped up, determined to prove himself in front of his son again. To be honest, Leo didn't really trust him, but it seemed there was no better way at the moment. And then they really did run into a security patrol. Leo just stood by, watching his dad and the security captain have a stare down. It's me, Rick Miller. I was looking for you specifically, third brother. You going to stop me? Rick's eyes were wide with anger. I'm here to escort you out. The security captain's face was helpless. Rick sneered, a smug look on his face, reminiscent of a classic movie villain. But this shocked Leo. No way. His dad had this much clout. Can I go too? Leo pointed at himself, not quite believing the scene in front of him. The security captain shook his head. You can't leave the Miller estate all day tomorrow. Leo sighed and glanced at his dad, signaling him not to be rash. It was better for him to get out and then find a way to rescue him than for both of them to be trapped in the mountains. Rick really didn't act rashly at all. Instead, he leaned into Leo's ear and whispered, if you get a chance, run along the back wall. Is there a door in the back wall? There's a hole. Can I fit through it? A propane tank can fit through it. Got it. The security captain politely made a please gesture, and father and son parted ways. To be honest, Leo didn't really take the hole in the back wall seriously. They had run into a patrol after just a few steps. How was he supposed to find the back wall? He could only hope his dad, who got out first, could figure something out. Silas should have a way, right? Thinking of this, Leo wasn't as anxious anymore. He hadn't expected his dad to have so much influence, to have someone specially escort him out. Rick stood at the main gate of the Miller estate, the security patrol standing in a neat line behind him. Go get the car. What are you looking at me for? Rick was baffled. He didn't understand why they had let him out. Third brother, there are no more cars in the family. Are you bullshitting me? Don't curse at me. Those were second brother's exact words. Was it Edward who told you to escort me out? The security captain nodded helplessly and made another please gesture, but Rick's legs felt like they were filled with lead. This is the mountains. If I walk out of here, it'll be morning. Third brother, I can't do anything about it. I'm not leaving. Let me go back. Second brother's exact words were, you don't have the right to spend the night at home. Rick finally got it. There was no influence, no respect. It was just Edward messing with him for fun. Try walking out of these deep mountains in the middle of the night. Call Edward. I want to ask him what's going on. The security captain was caught in the middle and had no choice but to take out his phone. Hello, second brother. Third brother wants to talk to you. I see. I'll tell him. Since he was asking for a favor, Rick restrained himself and didn't spew a stream of profanities until the security captain put down his phone, silent, as if struggling to find the right words. Rick spoke up. What did he say? Second brother is asleep. Who answered the phone just now? Second brother. Rick gritted his teeth and said good, good, good several times, then turned and disappeared into the darkness. Leo returned to the house and sat on the sofa in silence. He had actually thought about going to the patriarch to explain things, but on second thought, it probably wouldn't work. Because what the patriarch wanted before he died was for Leo to take over peacefully. He would never support Leo's risky plan, no matter what storms were raging outside, As long as Leo stayed in the Miller estate for this one day, he was in absolute safety. This was a safe house, in a strange place, with no acquaintances and no phone. And with a lot on his mind, Leo inevitably paced around the room, until someone knocked on the door.